Hi. Quick announcement before I start the show. Select and Start has a bonus episode out now on patreon.com/Keifer's Corner. Join today for just $1 or more a month for an exclusive hour-long episode where Avry and I talk about the history of X-Men video games and shout out our favorites. That's on patreon.com/Keifer's Corner. All right, I think that's it. Enjoy the show. Kid, comics will break your heart. This quote, commonly attributed to artist and writer Jack Kirby, is a frank statement on the unglamorous reality of being an artist in an exploitative industry. Jack Kirby, no relation to the adorable pink creature gamers know and love, is one of, if not the most influential figure in comics, altering the public's perception of what was considered possible in the medium multiple times across multiple decades. Kirby co-created Captain America with writer-editor Joe Simon in 1940, and after World War II would co-create iconic enduring characters such as Hulk, Thor, the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, the X-Men, and Magneto with Stan Lee. Despite his incalculable contributions to popular culture, Jack Kirby's career was marked with frequent indignities, underpayment, and disputes over credit and contributions. Kirby shaped comics as much as they shaped him, leaving behind works that would inspire the imagination of countless creatives who would follow in his footsteps and continue to push the boundaries of the form. As much as the form evolved, however, the treacherous path once walked by Jack remained largely the same. Even now, Jack Kirby's story is not an unfamiliar one. Look no further than the co-creator of Wolverine, one of the most famous fictional characters, and whose name has generated inconceivable billions of dollars across comic books, television, film, merchandise, and of course, video games. Wolverine was created by writer Len Wein and artist John Romita Sr., first appearing in The Incredible Hulk issue 180 in 1974, before being incorporated into Giant Size X-Men #1 in 1975. This comic, written by Len Wein and illustrated by Dave Cockrum, was the first X-Men issue in 5 years, and is credited with reviving the property with a new lineup of wildly popular characters including Nightcrawler, Storm, and Colossus. Despite the popularity of these characters and the revenue they've generated, Len Wein never reaped the benefits of their success. At a Television Critics Association panel in 2013, Len Wein revealed that he received very little in royalties from Marvel. The one check he did receive from Marvel was from the 2013 film The Wolverine, and only because the rules of the deal stipulated that he could only be paid if the film was named after the character. So strict are these rules that he did not even receive compensation for the 2009 film cumbersomely titled X-Men Origins: Wolverine. Comparatively, Len Wein made more money for co-creating the minor Batman character Lucius Fox than he ever did for Wolverine. Quote, "When I work for DC, anything I create I get a piece of. Lucius Fox, for example, who was in the last trilogy of Batman movies played by Morgan Freeman, bought my new house." Len Wein passed away in September of 2017. And as of this recording, Wolverine was the lead of 8 theatrical films and cameoed in 2 others. Indeed, Len Wein's story is an unfortunately common one in the comic books industry. Even those fortunate enough to get credit for their creations fail to get proper compensation for their work. And while comics may be one of the most visible examples of massive corporations withholding fair compensation from their workers, it is far from the only one. Such inequities do not emerge in a vacuum. It is normalized to the social conditions of a capitalistic society that has prioritized profit over art, and more crucially, people. If success has many parents, one is going to try its damnedest to avoid paying child support. The hostile working conditions of the comics industry would look very familiar to those who work in the video game industry, the workers of whom are also improperly compensated and struggle to gain recognition for their hard work. Listen to the intros of the Metroid Dread and The Last of Us episodes for more details, as well as the sources linked in the description. As of the time of this recording, over 11,000 workers in the video game industry have been laid off in 2024. These layoffs surpassed 2023's numbers, which was a particularly devastating year in the tech industry. The comic book and video game industries do not see their products as an art form, nor do they see their workers as people. They are merely inputs creating outputs. Profit is revenue minus expenses, and executives are eager to reduce those expenses by any means necessary. Reducing the value of the labor force is how the wealthy remain in power. The ruling class are completely isolated from the working conditions they create. There is no face to human capital, only a cost. Our lives are part of a game they play to make a number go up more quickly. Video games will break your heart, but you can't let them break your spirit. Devaluation of the worker, whether through layoffs, the proliferation of AI, and so forth, will inevitably lead to collapse. No single solution will instantly remedy the pervasive capitalistic rot in our society, but there are steps we can take, and less treacherous paths we can carve for the people who will follow us. Unionization efforts have been an extremely effective first step in fighting back. Communication Workers of America is currently the largest game developer union, currently representing over 1,750 video game workers at Microsoft alone. Raven Software, the company who developed today's game, is among the studios represented by CWA following a successful unionization of their QA testers in 2022. And these efforts aren't limited to America. Workers of the world are unionizing. For example, employees at Swedish developer Avalanche Studio Group and Polish studio CD Projekt Red formed unions in October of 2023. It's not just developers that are fighting back against video game companies either. On July 26, 2024, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, better known as SAG-AFTRA, initiated a labor strike against video game companies signed to the Interactive Media Agreement. This strike, which is ongoing as of the time of this recording, began after major video game corporations, namely Activision, Limelight, EA, Epic Games, Insomniac, Take-Two Interactive, Disney Character Voices, and Warner Bros. Games, could not suitably negotiate a contract that improved protections for video game performers. Specifically, protections that would restrict training AI to replicate the voice or likeness without consent and fair compensation. Solidarity to the strikers. And of course, solidarity to the workers. And this sentiment extends not only to the workers of the video game industry, but to everyone. It's not just comics and video games. These inequities, the exploitation and devaluation, persist in virtually every profession. I myself was laid off without notice earlier this year. It's vital for us to advocate for the workers of the world and to unite against the existing social conditions that created these hostile conditions in the first place. Unionizing is just the first step. The ruling class holds the power, and it is a power they've wielded with reckless abandon, reaping all of their prosperity from what the workers have sowed. With great power, there must also come great responsibility. And those in power responsible will be held accountable. Never give up the fight. Solidarity forever. I'm Keifer, and this is Select and Start. X-Men, welcome to Die, and welcome to Select and Start, the podcast about meaningful and memorable video games. I'm your host, Keifer, and every episode I bring on a guest who selects a game that made an impact on their life. I have a beautiful returning guest with me today, three-timer on the show now, my best friend and roommate, Avry. Avry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
You're the birthday boy.
Well, you record this and then edit it. By the time that they listen to this, I will no longer be a birthday boy, but I appreciate it. In this moment, currently, I am a birthday boy.
You're always a birthday boy to me.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
As of the time of this recording, it'll be his birthday tomorrow. He's not giving me his birthday to record, but he's giving me the time near his birthday to record, which means as much.
That's fine.
Yeah. Mortimer sitting on your lap there too.
My dog, who is named after an X-Men, technically.
Yeah?
Yeah, he is named after Toad.
Toad?
Toad, yeah.
Hell yeah. Is Toad an X-Men or is Toad
not an X-Men? In one of my favorite runs, which we'll talk about later, he is an X-Men.
Okay.
He's the janitor at the school. But yeah, I like that one.
Do you know what happens when Morty gets struck by lightning?
The same thing that happens to everything else.
All right. Fuck Joss Whedon. All right. So this is going to be a weird episode. I've been playing with the structure of the show for the past few episodes now, but that's been pretty loosey-goosey. I'm taking advantage of the zeitgeist right now. You and I the world is having X-Men fever. There is a popular film out called Deadpool and Wolverine. And there's also the thing that you and I love a lot, which is X-Men 97.
Yeah, X-Men 97 is the good thing.
X-Men 97 is great.
Yes.
Love that show. And you are somebody who has frequently talked about the video game X-Men Origins Wolverine and how much it's meant to you. Or that it's a game that you played a lot.
Something to me is one thing. I'm going to get to this. I have so many thoughts and opinions, which is why I'm on this episode.
Yes. But you've mentioned this on the podcast before. This game has come up pretty often as a game that people certainly like a lot, and is certainly better than the movie. We'll say that it's better than X-Men Origins Wolverine, the movie.
I would say it's a faithful adaptation of nonsense in that sense. But yeah, it is much, much better, much more enjoyable than that movie.
It is for lots of reasons. But basically, we have X-Men fever. It was a good time to return to this game. Wanted to talk about it on a show with you specifically because you know comics more than anybody, and I love you more than anybody. So who better
more than anybody you know, maybe. But we'll get to this when it comes to X-Men because there's just so much of it.
There's too much of it, I would argue.
I would argue there's too much of it.
Let's talk about the X-Men before we get into the video game itself. Let's just talk about the fucking X-Men.
Sure.
What is your relationship with these Men of X?
The Men of X. It's not my first love. That's Batman, and it's not my greatest love. That's Spider-Man in terms of superhero stuff. But in terms of like what I've read the most of, I would say it's probably X-Men, because again, there's just so goddamn much of it. What's crazy is like I've read more X-Men than anything else, but I've also probably only read like a fraction of what's out there, because there's so much and not all of it's very good. It's just it's what's going to happen to any franchise. Anything that runs for 60 years, that's going to happen. And the stuff that I like a lot, and the stuff that I don't care for, I just avoid, I think, is the thing. So yeah, I don't know. I love it deeply, but it's a very flawed thing.
Sure. What appeals to you about it?
In terms of like being a team, the Justice League, the Avengers, that is like corporate brand synergy. That is why those teams exist. That is, we have a lot of popular individual characters. What if we put them on a team? The X-Men started out as a team. They from the jump have a reason to be a team. They have a reason for their camaraderie. They have a reason, like they have a mission. They have a, like a cause that they're behind. Granted, the stories that are told using them don't always reflect that cause, and some of my favorite stuff involving the X-Men and its peripheral, it's like the fun swashbuckly space stuff, but it's like you earn that by building off of they are a team. They are a team, they are a family, warts and all, and I think that's beautiful. Also, they're fucking rad. They're cool as shit. Not all of them, but the ones that are really fucking cool. So,
who are your favorite X-Men?
I mean, Logan and Nightcrawler, for sure. Kitty, Storm, and Scott. Like, if I had to pick 5, I'd say that. Colossus is up there. I think he's underrated. Colossus is pretty good. That might get me canceled. Don't look up what Colossus did.
What did Colossus do?
Don't look up what Colossus did.
Does this have to do with the Kitty Pryde thing? Is that?
Yeah. I mean, people just make jokes about it because.
Okay.
Yeah, Also, a little too close with his sister Magic, but
Oh, Jesus.
If my sister was Anya Taylor-Joy,
Don't. All right. On the show, it's what, 5 minutes in. Okay, continue.
Yeah. We're just making incest jokes super quick.
Yeah, would that be your 5-team configuration, or would you?
I don't know if that's maybe the most interesting team dynamic, but like in terms of like, if I was making my like Doctor Doom battle world and I could only pick characters to keep, yeah, Kitty, Storm, Kurt, Logan, and Scott, I think are the most interesting.
No, let's go down the list here a little bit. Scott is like, the leader of the X-Men functionally.
Scott is a character that as a kid I couldn't stand. Mm-hmm. I always thought he looked cool. Like the Jim Lee costume in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, undeniably rad as hell.
Yeah.
But I never like related to him, and then I realized one day, it's the same thing I had with Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles, where I was like, oh my god, they're the oldest sibling.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest sibling. They're boring for a reason. Like they are the stick in the mud for a reason. But also, Scott's whole thing is he just doesn't give up. Like that's Scott's whole deal. I think a lot about that one. I think it's either Fraction or Gillen's run. I want to say it's Gillen's run, but it's like plan B implies that we only have 26. That's great. What a great line. Yeah, I do love Scott.
Yeah, I mean, like the eldest sibling thing is something that's been reverberating a lot in the culture milieu or whatever. But whether it's 10 Things I Hate About You, Leonardo, Cyclops, sure. the eldest child.
The new what was it, Mutant Mayhem, the new Ninja Turtle movie, I think really taps into that. And I mean, Leonardo's like, I would say, the main character in that dynamic in that movie. I would hope the POV kind of shifts a little bit in sequels and whatnot. But I really enjoyed like getting that take on the eldest sibling. It was cool.
To your point about like Leonardo also being a character that was kind of like maligned or like dismissed as the boring one. X-Men 97 is a good example of like Cyclops done well in
Cyclops is cool as fuck in that show. Scott, the first X-Men comic I ever like really sat down and read, I want to say was the Whedon run. Going back to fuck Joss Whedon, we started off the episode like that. But listen, it was the mid 2000s. Shit, Avengers is 2012. I like Avengers, but the Whedon run is a really good back to basics run after the Morrison stuff. In hindsight, like the Morrison stuff is my favorite. Morrison and Quietly, to be specific. That's my favorite X-Men run, probably, in terms of like X-Men proper. Just to clarify up front, my favorite run of X-Men ever is Peter Milligan and Michael Allred's X-Statix. That's the best. That's my favorite, but that's not really X-Men proper. That's like sweet, weird, again, peripheral. Like they are mutants, they are technically X-Men, but not really. The Whedon run is like really good, just like who are these characters? We've got a team of like 6 or 7 again. It's Storm's not even on that team, which is so stupid.
On a level, I'm grateful he didn't write a black woman, but on the other hand, that's also a symptom of his problems.
What happens to a toad? Anyway.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Yeah, it's Scott, Logan, Kitty, Colossus, Hank. Is that it? Who am I blanking on the Astonishing running? Oh, Emma is on that team, and she's great in that run. But that's the thing is, like, the early 2000s, a lot of that is spent with, like, oh, Scott cheated on his wife mentally with Emma Frost, which is great, by the way. That's great stuff. I love that he gets, like, mentally domed. It's fantastic. But also, like, the early 90s, there's a lot of that. Like, the late 80s, early 90s is like, oh, well, he's with Madeline, who's a clone of his wife, and this and that. My point being is he doesn't get a lot of time to shine. The Whedon run, I feel like, is the first chance that he gets a chance to breathe as a character. And then after that, you get the Bendis run. Before that is Avengers versus X-Men. I'm blanking on some stuff there in the middle. There's like Siege and stuff, which I like a lot, but more so for the Avengers side of things. The Bendis run tries to do stuff with Scott. I don't think any of it's particularly interesting. They set him up as like a revolutionary and whatnot, but they never really go anywhere with it. I don't feel like. I like it though. And then the recent Hickman run is fantastic because in that Scott is like, we won. And I am now the eldest sibling of a utopia. And I think that's really interesting. I think they do a lot of cool stuff with Scott in that run. It's a shame that run ended prematurely for a lot of editorial reasons. They just spread it too quick. But the new stuff I'm not particularly interested in because it is that back to basics after the Hickman run. And yeah, I don't know. I do love Cyclops. It's just he's a what is it? A land of contrasts.
It's one of those things where back to basics works the first time, right? But like the nature of
comics is nothing ever ends.
Comics is nothing ever ends, and that's just a really tragic way of being, and that's been a thing that's been difficult for me as a casual person to get into these things. I'm relying on people like you to tell me what are the standout things to read, which it would be ideal if I could curate my own tastes in this weird tapestry of things, but there's also just an editorial that insists on like appealing to somebody. I don't know, people 35 to 45. I don't know who the demographic of comic books are, but
yeah, that's why I liked X-Men 97 a lot from the Cyclops perspective, because they touch on he wants a normal life. Like that's something that he is the eldest sibling of a cause, and that cause is fighting for a chance at normalcy, and he's never going to get that, which is sad. But I like that they at least like touch on it, and like him and his relationship with his son is like genuinely tragic and surprisingly deep for a Member Berries cartoon. I was totally prepared for that cartoon to suck, and then what a blessing.
There was so much stink on it that could have made it bad. It's a Disney product, explicitly cashing in on nostalgia.
Yeah.
It seems so cynical on the surface, and then people are kind of like scared of the animation style because the clips they were putting out were not the ones in action.
It looks weird when it's like people talking in a room, but the minute that they start fighting or whatever, I'm like, oh, this is great. This is fine.
I've been watching a lot of Sailor Moon with Selena, my girlfriend, and it's what X-Men 97 has is the anime thing where it's like, oh, they're clearly trying to save money on this scene.
Yeah. I mean, I have the same thing with Invincible where I'm watching Invincible. I'm like, oh, like I can see the seams, like My Adventures with Superman, which is also great. I can see the seams sometimes animation-wise, but I don't mind it because the storytelling's strong. So
yeah, no, I mean, like if you tell a good story, that's what really matters. I mean, you're a Transformers fan. Like this is a thing with like the Beast Wars stuff. Is like that's the most dog shit looking thing that's ever.
But the writing's great. The writing in Beast Wars is maybe the best Transformers has like ever been, except
animated.
Well, animated is a children's cartoon. It is a baby show for babies, but it is like done with such loving care, and it is. Like that's my favorite Transformers thing. Let's not do this right now.
We won't. Yeah, we're already like going on tangents within tangents here. I didn't mean.
Point being is, I like Cyclops quite a bit.
Cyclops is good. Land of contrasts, and then there's characters like Nightcrawler that you love, which speak for themselves. So we don't really have to go into that. I'm a Cajun boy, so I have to like always go to bat for Remy LeBeau, the Gambit, and we won this year.
Yeah, I mean, a great Well, you say that, and then we played X-Men Origins Wolverine. But
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah.
au revoir, mon frère.
It's not even the most offensive portrayal of.
It's not, but like, spoilers, I guess, for video game talk. The fact that he says au revoir, mon frère, maybe 10 times.
That is just a problem with the game itself.
I know, but like,
How many times have I heard Wolverine say fresh meat in that game?
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah, but like it is a character who's only on screen like in one level and has recycled lines. It's a symptom.
Yeah, I'm still torn. I'm going back and forth on the spoilers for Deadpool. What is it? Deadpool Wolverine?
We'll come back to that.
Okay,
we will come back to that.
Anyway,
But,
point
like,
being,
really cool character in X-Men 97.
yeah, he's great in X-Men 97.
People have been making fun of Gambit for my entire life, rightfully so. He is a ridiculous concept for a character in voice, presentation, and execution.
It's one of the things you just got to commit, and when they do, it's great.
Some of the few X-Men comics I've read are like the Gambit solo story or something like that. There's like a Gambit solo run. I've read some of that.
Sure.
It's like I'm enforcing myself to love this character because it's the rare Cajun
His
representation.
stuff with Rogue, like that's the best stuff.
It's just okay. So like that's the appeal of X-Men broadly. It's like it is a soap opera. If this thing is going to run forever and exist as it is, and there's going to be so many different iterations of it, it is a soap opera. The stuff between Charles and Eric is heightened soap opera stuff. The stuff between
so hot.
Everything involving Scott Summers and his orbit is soap opera stuff. Rogue and Gambit, soap opera stuff.
Yeah.
But it's superheroes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are we? I don't even remember what we were talking about specifically. We were just talking about how much I like the X-Men.
I was just asking you about how much you like which are your favorite X-Men.
Yeah, I mean, Logan is like a perfect character in a way. It's very funny that he just was like, intended originally as like kind of a one-off in Hulk, and then they adopted him over to writer Len Wein created him for this Hulk run, and then he brings him over to Giant Size X-Men later on, and it's great. Like, he's a really rich character, and he's the kind of guy that you can kind of project anything onto. There's a video game that we played recently for this podcast where you collect rage orbs so that you can more properly cut off people's heads, but then you also get like a Logan 2017 out of it, where it's like, this eternal warrior striving for peace and never finding it because he's, created as a weapon, and it's like, he can be anything you want him to be. And it's funny because like Wolverine is one of those guys where it's like there are runs where I love that he's a son of a bitch, and there are runs that I love where he's just this sweet old dad, and it just depends. It just depends on the run and the writer. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, perfect character. I think X-Men 97 also touched really well on Storm. They really got to like the meat of that character, I think, in a way. Her and her relationship with her powers. And Kitty isn't in the cartoon, right?
Was never in a 90s cartoon or 97.
Yeah, she's in Pride of the X-Men, which is the precursor, but she's right.
Yeah.
Kitty's one of those characters where it's like she is the audience POV in a way that it's a great way to get immersed in the world. And I think Whedon's run, having her at the forefront, helped me get into X-Men a lot. It is a crying shame that we have not had like a proper Kitty Pryde adaptation. She's one of my favorites. But yeah, I mean, I do love the X-Men, just in terms of like that team of characters. Like, that's, I think, my favorite. Not that there aren't other amazing ones. I mean, Wolverine and the X-Men is like a whole school of deep cuts, and they're some of my favorites. So
I mean, this whole episode can be like just 6 hours of us saying people and then not. I remember like one of the first.
Glob Herman.
There's like back in 2019,
Zorn.
Like. You and I and somebody else like sat down for like 3 hours one time, and we recorded us just doing like a tier ranking of X-Men characters. And
yeah,
that was like 5 years ago. That was like one of the first things we ever recorded as a group together. And that was just, again, it was just us naming guys. And that took multiple hours. We can't do
Brew.
I don't even know who that is. This samurai made of steel. That seems like a cool guy.
The Silver Samurai?
Yeah.
Not a mutant.
Not a mutant?
I don't think so.
Why is he there? Then why is he always there?
He's just a villain.
Okay.
Wolverine has to go to Japan for some reason, so he fights a samurai.
He's lived a long time. He can go a lot of places.
Yeah.
That's the appeal of the character. He is, again, another soap opera like vessel. He has lived over 200 years, born in the 1800s, still alive in the future.
I don't like the origin stuff.
Well, that's the problem, Avery.
Yeah.
It's X-Men Origins : Wolverine is a mess.
Yeah,
the movie.
That's the other thing I was going to say, like, in terms of like liking, the X-Men. It's like, I like the X-Men, but I also actively avoid so much of it. A big push in the 2000s to fill in Wolverine's backstory in a way that I find so perplexing. Like, obviously he was bigger than he'd ever been. Like, he's in the movies. Hugh Jackman's like made him this household name, but I think it's Paul Jenkins writes the first Origin comic, which is just dreadful, just terrible. And then who is it that does the Romulus stuff? But essentially, there's like Romulus, like the Romulus is a wolf god,
Mhm.
and Wolverine is a descendant of him, and he looks like Wolverine, but with like long silver hair, and he has like Freddy Krueger blades for hands, and it's all dumb. I think it's Jeff Loeb. I think Jeff Loeb does that, which checks out, especially late 2000s Jeff Loeb. Yeah, just terrible shit. Just awful, miserable stuff that I could not, you couldn't pay me to be interested in. The only thing I like out of that is that they essentially invent a blade that can kill a Wolverine or a Sabretooth called the Muramasa blade. And they do introduce his son Dakin, or Dakin, not sure, who I do like, but it's because of work that other writers did with him down the line. So
A guy who fucks that much has to have children running around.
yeah, I mean, I like the idea that he's got a lot of kids. I think that's funny. If
Yeah.
anything. Like I like the idea that he's got a lot of adopted kids, and then just not a good relationship with a single one of his biological children.
Right. I mean, he is the most deadbeat person that's ever existed.
Yeah, but he's also a good dad.
Yeah, he's a
Just
good.
not to his kids.
Yeah, no, like I'm not fucking paying child support.
Yeah.
You can't die, Logan. I'll just wait for them to die. But yeah, that's the thing. There's this temptation to make all these characters mythic in some way. They try and do it to Spider-Man.
Yeah. Don't get me started.
We won't.
Yeah.
We're barely staying on task.
Yeah.
But there's just like this temptation to make these characters who have like, such the bare bones of them, the adamantium bones of them even, are so compelling, and you want to fill it in. And the answer is never going to be really fully satisfying because everybody insists on trying to make things as big as possible because it's comic books. But Wolverine being such a popular character that like they would literally just put him on covers to sell comic books.
Yeah.
That's how like big he is. And I remember as a kid, like you and I were both born in 1996. The first X-Men movie comes out in 99. Like we grew up where like kids way more popular than us were like putting pencils between their fingers and being like, I'm the X-Man.
Yeah.
Kind of shit.
He is the X-Man. I will say that. He is. There was a debate recently on Twitter. It's like, he's not the X-Man, and like blah blah blah. Fuck you. No, like Wolverine is the X-Man. He has been the X-Man since the 80s, really. Like people fucking love Wolverine for a reason.
He got Marvel out of bankruptcy.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those like he can be anything that a writer wants him to be, and it always somehow makes sense. It's he's just a perfect character. Maybe in like a bleak, cynical way of like he's so not defined by some things, but I feel like the Logan staples they're timeless in a way. So
right. To your earlier point, Wolverine was a character who was originally introduced as somebody for the Hulk to fight in a 1970s issue of The Incredible Hulk, created by writer Len Wein and artist John Romita Sr., who was previously mentioned in a Spider-Man episode because he did a lot of work on the Spider-Man comics at the time, too.
One of the best to ever do it.
Yeah. Incredible legacy, including co-creating Wolverine. What are the definitive X-Men runs? Because as somebody
so again, there's so much. There's so much, and I like you're saying X-Men or Wolverine.
So we're starting with Wolverine.
Okay, so the definitive Wolverine run, I would say, like if you're going to pick up one book and read it, read the Claremont and Frank Miller run. Like that's a great place to start. I read that as a kid, and I was like, oh, like this is great. It's just him slicing up ninjas and shit. Like, I mean, there's more to it. There's other things going on in that run, but that's a good, solid little Logan story. There's so much bad stuff that it's tough for me to say like what I would recommend. I really like Remender's X-Force run because in that he's doing Bastard Man shit. There's Jason Aaron and I think it's Nick Bradshaw primarily. It starts out as Chris Bachalo, but it's mainly Nick Bradshaw that draws it. It's Wolverine and the X-Men from Christ, when is that book? 2014? I don't even know. 2011? It's been a while.
I think it's the early, because I got it as a birthday gift in 2013, an omnibus of some of the Jason Aaron stories. It's right behind you, actually.
But, oh, wow.
Yeah. So like, that's what's coming out as like that omnibus was like promoting the Wolverine movie that was coming out that year.
Jeez. Yeah. So yeah, Wolverine and the X-Men. I love that run because that is Charles is dead. This is right after Avengers versus X-Men. So this is 2012. Good Lord. That was 12 years ago? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. Oof. Okay. So Logan is the headmaster of the school. And I think that's just a fun dynamic. It's like you've got this grizzled old son of a bitch and he's wrangling an entire school of superpowered children. That run, I think, does a really good job of like kind of reckoning with the X-Men's legacy, like as a whole. Like there's a lot of callbacks and stuff, but it's all very fresh. I do love that run. I think that's my favorite. I don't know about definitive. I don't know what the definitive Wolverine run is.
What would you recommend somebody's like, I like the Wolverine read?
Like I said, the Claremont Miller stuff. I think,
Okay.
yeah. Like if you're gonna pick up one trade, that's like it's self-contained. You know, it's like you can just read that story. I would say that.
Yeah. What are your favorite Wolverine costumes?
So it's funny. This game actually has all three of them.
Really?
Yeah. The tiger stripe isn't my favorite, but it's undeniable. You know, it's a great costume. The silver and black X-Force costume, just fucking cool looking. It's his Black Ops. Again, he's doing the slick and nasty shit that he wouldn't be doing in public. I think that's cool. But the brown and tan is like far and away my favorite. In my head canon, there is the brown and tan for when he's doing like solo stuff, the tiger stripe when he's doing like X-Men team shit, and then there's the Black Ops costume. There are other great suits. I'm very partial to how he looks in the Quietly Run with the black leather jacket with a big yellow X on it. I think that shit's sick as hell, especially with the dog tags. Honestly, he looks good in a flannel and a tank top, but that's not a costume.
He's a character you can do anything with. He's fit a lot of tones before. He's been a cowboy. He's been in space. He's done True Grit. He's done everything. Yeah, I mean, a character that has like this alluring costume component to him, which makes sense. A character with so many costumes, which makes sense why Insomniac is going to be making a Wolverine video game that's probably going to come out in 2026. That's what the leaks say. They're going to be 30 when that game comes out.
So, no.
But we'll get into that later. My relationship with X-Men media has been through video games and cartoons mainly. I saw some of the movies growing up, but I was more of a Spider-Man kid anyway. So I was like clinging on to that. And the movies weren't especially good. My thing was like, I like the cartoons. I watched a 90s cartoon. I watched X-Men Evolution.
Great, yeah.
Wolverine and the X-Men, which is a Nicktoons Network show that did not get its due and was canceled in its first season.
I haven't seen it, which you've harped on this as long as I've known you. I do have to revisit at some point.
It is really good. It's a shame it completes the arc in it, but it ends on a cliffhanger, which, yeah, comic books, right? Comic books never end, cartoons end, and I've had a lot of disappointments in my life. The Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon. Anyway, which was around the same time. The reason I think a lot of this stuff was canceled is because the Disney Marvel acquisition happened.
2010.
Yeah, yep. So
that's why you have the, like Iron Man stuff and whatever, like, Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2, I think, is when it happens.
Yeah, the same year as Iron Man 2. And then that completely changes everything. I would never really felt strongly about the films, and that was confirmed in my having watched the movies recently in preparation for this episode, in preparation for the upcoming Deadpool movie. And I was like, I should watch all of these. I want to give them all a fair chance because I never really watched them all.
Sure.
In the proper order. I watched, like I said, some of them. Mostly misses the X-Men movies.
Yeah. So X-Men 97 is kind of perfect. And what I've realized with it is that it makes everything else, well, not everything, but like especially the live action movies, feel like a half measure. You know what I mean? Like Logan 2017, very good. There's a lot of great beats in those movies. There's a lot of great casting choices in those movies. Like you have Alan Cummings as Nightcrawler, fucking incredible casting.
The casting is incredible in those movies. And to your point, like X-Men 97.
Marston as Cyclops in better movies would be pitch perfect.
Like X-Men 97 is a better primer for the X-Men, which is weird because it's a sequel to a 90s cartoon that ended over 25 years ago.
I didn't rewatch that shit before I started the new show. You know what I mean? It's like I just jumped in.
It so seamlessly introduces you to these classic characters in a better and more seamless way than anything else has for these characters and anything that I've seen. But sorry, continue about your thing about the movie.
No, it's just like X-Men Evolution, I have a particular fondness for. You know what? You're talking about the best Wolverine costumes. That orange and black, they've only revisited that costume one time. And you know what it was? It was in Dark X-Men when Daken, his son, is pretending to be him or like portraying himself as the Wolverine to the public. And he wears the orange and black costume. And I was like, oh, that's a great costume for like Dark Wolverine. Very cool.
That was the first Wolverine costume I ever saw because that was the cartoon airing when I was like 4.
Was it 2001, 2002?
Like 2000 starting, I think.
Man, I remember the little Burger King discs. You remember that?
I don't remember what. I mean, I remember the Burger King discs, but which one are you talking about?
There was like little Burger King toys, and they came with like little GameCube sized discs. I don't remember what the fuck they did. Can I swear on this? I always forget.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't remember what they did. I'm assuming like you popped it in your disk drive at home, and it gave you malware. I don't know what it did, but X-Men Evolution is just X-Men Degrassi for the most part. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, it fucked up my entire conception of what the X-Men was in a good way because it was well made and everything like that. But like
It's a
them
great
being,
looking show too.
it looked good. They were sent to public school, which is the whole thing is like that they are raised in a school separate from the rest of society. But this
Yeah,
is
and
just
it's
like,
got Kitty, it's got Kurt, it's got Logan,
yeah, everyone's a teenager, which again is another
except
thing.
Logan,
Oh
which is
yeah,
just so
he
funny.
drops them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great.
Oh wait, no,
Anyway,
Scott has a car and he like takes
yes.
them to school, and then Kitty also like runs off with the Brotherhood sometimes as like a that
Man, I love all the Toad and Avalanche stuff in that show. It's so good.
yeah, good show. And again, that was like my first introduction. The costumes in it were really good too.
I love that Cyclops costume with the huge X. The new run, like, it feels like an inverse of that in a way that makes me like violently angry, but it's not worth getting upset about. It's just like, man, like I've seen that concept done so well 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's crazy. But yeah, like watching the live action movies now, it's like none of them really scratch the itch of what I love about this series so much. There's again, like they come close in moments, but it is fleeting. Like I would say, genuinely, my personal opinion, the best that those live action movies ever get is First Class. The stuff with Eric and Charles in First Class is really good, but I wouldn't say like it's an amazing movie. It's pretty good. You know, none of them are amazing except maybe Logan.
Yeah, I mean Logan is the best one. I can confirm that having now.
Logan's the best one, but it also, I feel like, doesn't go far enough. And I understand, like, pulling its punches is part of what makes that movie work, but it's like, if I wanted to watch Shane, I would just go watch Shane. I'm here for a goddamn Wolverine story. So, like, I always find that a little frustrating. It's like, yeah, it's good, but, like, it's good at what cost?
Right. And the weakness of these movies, regardless of like the people creating them who are kind of hacks, Brett Ratners and your Bryan Singers and all that, is that these are soap operas. It's more conducive if you're going to adapt them into a TV show than it would be to a movie because you got all these wonderful creatures and you don't get to spend enough time with them to really connect with them. You
It's
really
almost like a huge team of great characters deserves like a more serialized episodic like type thing. You know, it's maybe why X-Men 97 works so well is because you like that show's fascinating to me because Wolverine's barely in it.
Mhm.
But he gets like 3 really goddamn good moments. So you walk away being like, I love Wolverine. I'm like, yeah, he does like 3 big things in that show.
Mhm.
Most of it is like Scott and Jean and whatnot, which I think is good because they need the spotlight because Wolverine soaks it up so much. But that show gives that team and that dynamic enough time to breathe where it works a lot better, I think, to like everything's strengths.
Right. All these movies have to be an event. They can't just be hangouts. They can't really have like the thing that people like most about like X-Men Apocalypse, a movie that everyone tries to avoid talking about because it sucks so much, was the deleted scene where they're hanging out at the mall.
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking a lot about recently in terms of like the MCU, the state of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Infinity War, which is what is that now? That's 6 years ago?
Mhm.
Man, like the joy of that movie wasn't, you know, the event necessarily. It was, hey, all the people that you like are in one movie. And that's like the oh shit moment. That was the appeal of Avengers 2012. Age of Ultron like adds a few new faces, but Infinity War is like I still think about the highs in that movie a lot because you have the Guardians hanging out with Doctor Strange, hanging out with Iron Man, hanging out with Spider-Man. It's like, oh, that's the fun of this is you have a bunch of people that we've grown to like over the past however many years in their own little movies. They're all hanging out in a room. The highest points of the MCU to me are that stuff. Currently, I don't know any of the characters and I don't like many of them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what is Brie Larson's Captain Marvel going to hang out with Sam Wilson's Captain America? I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't know those 2 characters well enough. Like, they haven't gotten enough time to breathe on their own. So who gives a shit if Iron Man comes back as Doctor Doom? I don't give a fuck. That's kind of where I'm at with that stuff. And it's just like it's a testament to if you give these stories and you give these characters time to breathe, you're gonna mine so much more enjoyment for your audience out of it.
Right. People try and complain that people have turned against the MCU because of contrarianism or whatever. And no, it like what I've realized, especially this past year, is like I still love superhero shit. I have watched like 3 different cartoons this year that reaffirm my love of superheroes. The Invincible cartoon, My Adventures with Superman, X-Men 97. That stuff is great. It's just like the live action form is so limiting in what can be done with like the powers and like the big stuff. And in the time of the films are too short for us to like meaningfully explore these characters. It's there's they offer less. They offer less.
Yeah. No, it is. It's
Like beyond like the Kevin Feige, everything must be like one tone, one shape, and be serving something in the future.
sure, yeah. It is theme park rides, and a theme park ride is short, and it is it might be thrilling in the moment, but it is not like it's not going to leave an impact on you.
But like I'd be okay with like the idea of a theme park ride, but like the idea of their theme park is like, all right, you get on this coaster and then you have to go to this coaster and not like actually like be able
Yeah,
to like pick and choose.
and you never actually get any sort of catharsis out of it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Everything is like a guided experience. It's more like just being guided through a haunted house where like it's expensive, but it's not really especially grandiose. And you're rushing these things out and they don't really get time to cook and be standalone experiences. But we're just being mean and complaining now.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, like, I think the X-Men movie I liked the most watching this stuff was X2.
Yeah,
Because
X2's like one of the higher highs for
yeah,
sure.
you
But it's
get
like even in that, it's like I'm watching. I'm like, man, like the black leather and Stryker's son, and it's like there's a lot of neat stuff there, but it just feels so watered down.
the
It's
third
like
act is like,
I know that this could be so much more fun. I know this could be so much more bombastic.
mhm.
And then X-Men 97 shows up and tells, I would say, as rich of a story with all of those things that I'm looking for out of an X-Men thing.
Yeah,
So
I liked X2, but like the thing is like then they get to the dam at the end and it's just like I lose interest. Like the last 40 minutes is just kind of like, bummer. The first two acts are just like really good and like establishing the stakes and the characters and like all these little arcs going on, and then they all like go to the fireworks factory and it's not really the fireworks factory. It's just kind of like a bunch of like dark rooms and
they do go to a fireworks factory in Madam Web.
yes.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, we
Well, I haven't
can't
seen
talk
the movie.
we can't talk about Madam Web.
Yeah.
We can barely talk about the X-Men.
Sure.
Yeah, no, but those movies, it's just like there was no reassessment of anything for me. Days of Future Past is very aggressively, and I hate to use this term, so whatever, but mid.
It's painfully mid. It's just that in the moment in 2014, I think we kind of got swept up in the year. We got Guardians of the Galaxy, which I stand by. It's great.
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier is not as imperfect as people make it out to be, but it is still very strong. Like
It's
there's
great.
a lot of great moments in that. And again, it's character stuff.
Knife
like,
flip.
Yeah. Oh, knife flip is great. Remember when Nick Fury like carves a hole in the street? Anyway, so
I've never figured out the logistics of that.
it's so funny. I don't care. It's so funny. That's the kind of shit I want out of a comic book movie.
That's the
so I'm
thing. Like
totally
it's
fine
fun.
with it.
That's funny.
But it also ends with "You're my mission," which is such a great. Oh, anyway.
Mhm.
So yeah,
The
it's
problem is we don't have Chris Evans anymore.
he is really fucking good. I hate it. I hate that he's good. And like I Deadpool and Wolverine is such like a nothing burger on a level. Like
The problem is that Chris Evans is in it.
yeah, it's like I enjoyed. Like I had fun. Like me and you and some friends of ours went to go see it, and like we had a good time. And spoilers for this movie. Again, at this point when it comes out, it's going to be like 2 weeks from now. It'll be the movie. I've been out a minute. Gambit's in the movie, played by Channing Tatum. Santa Claus is real, and he's funny. He's funny, and like the costume looks super cheap in a way that I think is charming because it's like the whole point is that he's a movie that never got made, and I don't mind it. And he gets some really good Gambit action moments. He does the deck of cards swoosh thing, like it's fucking cool. But on the whole, like you want to talk about a theme park ride, man.
It's more of like a PowerPoint slide
Yeah,
of
yeah.
moments to shareholders
It feels
that
like
we
a
got
theme
to
park
see.
ride through a junkyard.
I feel like I watched a Comic-Con trailer leak
yeah,
on the big screen.
sure, yeah.
Like it's just like
I'm also tired. I'm tired of Ryan Reynolds.
Like
We've evolved past the need for Ryan Reynolds.
I remember us seeing Free Guy for some reason because we had AMC A-list for a while.
I saw it for Jodie Comer. I stand by that.
Well, yeah, another movie where there's a Channing Tatum cameo that's way better than the rest of the
Yeah,
movie.
it's true. God, he's very funny in that. As
If
like
I had
the
a
weird
dollar for every
Fortnite guy.
Sean Levi movie starring Ryan Reynolds where there's a Channing Tatum cameo that's better than the rest of the movie.
It's not a lot, but it's weird that I have it twice.
Anyway, I remember us seeing Free Guy. We had an AMC A-list. We'd just be watching whatever. We got Mexican food afterwards, and I just sort of like looked up and was like, are there good Ryan Reynolds movies? And there's like maybe a couple. There's less than 5.
Yeah, no, not really.
Yeah.
Detective Pikachu is like in the upper echelon, and I think that's like tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, like I said this to Eric when he had me on like his Patreon bonus thing where we were talking about like top 5. Sorry, like we were talking about top 5 video game movies on like the soundtrack or Patreon, and I said like Detective Pikachu is one of the best video game movies, and it's probably the best Ryan Reynolds movie. and that's kind of damning for both.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired. This whole thing. I watched the movie and I was like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I watched all these movies, these X-Men movies, and I've seen all the MCU movies. God help me. I never saw the Marvels. We never saw the Marvels.
We never did see the Marvels. I
But-
said I was going to wait till Disney Plus, and I didn't even care enough to do that. So,
But I'm tired.
yeah.
I've missed so many shows at this point.
But again, it's like you say that, but then it's like My Adventures with Superman comes along, tells a really tight, like character-driven story, reinvigorates that character, like gives a fresh new perspective on it, and it's like, oh, like what if it was Dragon Ball? Fucking A, great, yeah, it's awesome.
We love it. It's literally just like, here's a new take. We like this take. You like this character. I like this character. Everything's great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to watch anything around it. It's 20 minutes an episode. There's 10 episodes or whatever a season. It is very digestible and it's so fun. And there was that Cape Crusader cartoon that was unceremoniously dropped on Amazon Prime.
Not very good.
You know, it's definitely got ideas. It's half baked.
It is half baked. Yeah,
it's half baked. I
like the voice cast, and I think the writing's okay.
It's like cookie dough. I can't have all this at once, but like I see what you're cooking.
Sure.
You know, I see what you're going to make if you were given a second season.
Yeah.
Fuck David Zaslav. But superheroes should be cartoons, and we just got to learn to embrace that. Like, I don't need to watch an R-rated cartoon that's just like doing member berries for people who are much more fond of the X-Men movies than me. If you like the X-Men movies, that's totally great. I just was not moved watching all this, and the fucking Days of Future Past Sentinels look like shit from a butt.
Yeah.
You had a Gillette razor and shit from a butt. That's
the Sentinel in this bad video game that we're about to talk about looks better than it does in that movie.
I had a better time playing this game than I did rewatching like 90% of the X-Men.
Again, yeah. It's like
I have to. I don't want to keep saying besides Logan a lot, but like that's.
I mean, just know that the asterisks of like, yeah, Logan's great.
Logan's great. We don't got to talk about Logan because Logan's great.
Yeah,
it's been talked to death about how Logan's great, in spite of it being like technically.
It transcends the umbrella of an X-Men movie. You know what I mean?
It's so weird to like the cumulative final exam. Technically, they kept making movies after this for some reason.
It's one of those things where it's like, I get frustrated with that movie because it's like, Richard E. Grant should just be Mr. Sinister. There's no reason that he's not Mr. Sinister or whatever, you know? And it's like, this could be a little bit weirder and it could be a little bit more fun. But also, like, if you did that, then people would be like, oh, it's an X-Men movie. And I get it. I do get it. But it's like, at that point, why make the fucking thing? Whatever.
Again, it's the movie thing. Everything has to like be disciplined and tonally constricted into this like tight thing. And I love film. I love film more than basically any medium.
But it's like, you have to play to the strengths of the medium that you're working in. You know what I mean? Like, it's and anyway, like you're rewatching Hitchcock movies at home right now. Like, I walk by and it's like, oh, this is a fucking 80-year-old movie and it's beautiful. It's so goddamn gorgeous, but it's because it's someone working to like the medium that they're in,
shaping it even.
Yeah, and man, it's just so frustrating when it's just like, oh well, this is the most, and like, you know, this is a bigger conversation about adaptation and animation and comics and whatnot. But it's like, oh, like the thing that's the most broad and therefore the most like profitable is film, and so everything needs to be that. And then it's like, okay, can't you see that you're making it worse? Like, that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, and like the MCU shaped film, but in a more cynical direction, where it's like we got a franchise within franchise and make everything like this continuity driven. It's this unsustainable model that's imploding on itself right now.
The Chick-fil-A streaming service.
Yeah. It's just, you know, it's this.
I want to say this. I want to lead with, I love Star Wars. I love The Last Jedi. It's Catch Me on the Right Day, my favorite Star Wars movie. They have ruined Star Wars with Marvel brain rot. That's my thought, is like, like you watch the Book of Boba Fett and the resolution to the season 2 Mandalorian, and I'm like, shut up. Stop.
You can't make it homework, and they're doing too much too quickly, and you're burned. I flamed out. I flamed out of this so hard.
I stopped doing homework in 3rd fucking grade.
Yeah. I don't want things to be like this. I want to enjoy it because I'm watching it. I don't want to be enjoying it because I have to. The FOMO model has never worked, and I know that's Disney's entire thing, where like the Disney Vault, even where like home releases were just like this limited time release thing.
Evil goddamn company.
And we'll talk about the preservation of media shortly.
Yeah.
All of this is to say, let's talk about X-Men video games, because we're talking about adaptations. And
sure.
Adaptations can be these things that can like make a new generation love something and seek out the original form, a la X-Men 97. It can be this like really like thoughtful exploration of how, a work can be changed into something new and stand on its own without you having to pursue that media. And sometimes it can just be doo-doo dog shit. And hey, video games are, high highs and low lows. But let's talk about X-Men video games.
Sure.
We, of course, cannot have an in-depth discussion of every X-Men game because these games go back to 1989. I want to basically ask you what games you have played, and then I'm going to go down a list of like some notable ones because
I would say I've played the notable ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of X-Men video games. I think at some point it held like the world record for like most adaptations of like a video game in like the superhero realm, which is,
So, I mean, in terms of my exposure, the X-Men arcade cabinet, I played a little bit as a kid, and then I recently played a lot of it with our buddy Manu when we were in Chicago. Love you, Manu, if you're listening to this.
He's certainly listening to this.
And I really enjoy that as like, just the side scroller, like, beat 'em up type stuff. That's great. The Marvel vs. Capcom 2 portrayal, I think the artist's name is Bangus. That portrayal of the X-Men and Marvel characters and Capcom characters has like shaped me undeniably my entire life. Nothing has ever looked cooler than Scott Summers in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. He's the coolest guy in the world.
Yeah.
I had action figure, this is so crazy. I had action figure 2-packs as a kid, and it would be like Morrigan and Captain America. And I'm like, you shouldn't be in the same box, but whatever, it's cool. There was Spider-Man with Strider, I think was his name. He was like a red and blue ninja. I don't know what he's from.
Strider is just from a video game called Strider on the Sega Genesis.
Is it any good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's a fun little platforming game. There's also a Strider game that came out like...
He looks sick as hell. He just also looked like Ninja Spider-Man. So I was like, oh, this guy's great. Love that toy. And
the crossover made sense.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the other crossover packs that I had. But the point being is I had these toys as a kid, and like that portrayal of the X-Men in particular, I think really shaped like my mental image of them. But as like far as other games go, there's the X-Men Legends games, which are great, and then their like spiritual successor, which is the Marvel Ultimate Alliance stuff. I think that probably does the best in terms of like how do we make a level that plays with both Storm and Wolverine? Because I mean, like that's the thing is like you have all these different kinds of characters with different powers, and it's impossible to make it like work really. But in terms of doing it, I think that Marvel Ultimate Alliance and X-Men Legends, that probably comes the closest.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, in terms of like notable ones, I've played most of the notable ones.
Yeah. That's those are most of the notable ones.
Oh, and then X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Well, we have a whole episode on that to come.
Journey to distant realms. Explore the furthest reaches of the universe. Survive deadly dangers. Experience matters of the heart and more in a new actual play podcast. Join me, Audrey. That's right, just me, as I play tabletop games designed for one player. From journaling games to tarot games to even games that take me outside, I'm bringing you along for the ride. Join me for every episode of Alone at the Table.
Before we talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition, even though Insomniac has exclusive rights to making X-Men video games, if they came to you and they said, Avery, what X-Men video game do you want? How would you make an X-Men video game?
So I'm torn because like we have the leaks for the Wolverine game, and like the Wolverine game would scratch the itch for me in a lot of ways, and I don't want to like get ahead of myself talking about this game.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the bones,
adamantium bones, yes,
the adamantium bones of a great Wolverine game are in this game that we're going to talk about today. I would not call X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition whatever a great game. It's fun. I had fun with it, but there's a lot of like the healing factor and the different costumes, and frankly how gnarly it is at times, even behind like PS3 graphics. It's almost there in so many ways that I think an Insomniac version of that is like exactly what I'm going to want. I'm like, that sounds great. Beyond that, there are not many X-Men that I think work very well for a video game. I feel like Cyclops, unless every level's a hall of mirrors, I don't know that that's a very interesting gameplay mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you Bionic Commando him, where it's like, well, he's a really good soldier and he's running around and he's, doing like soldier shit, but also has this crazy eye beam that he can use. Cool. I just don't know that it lends itself very well to that. I mean, a Deadpool game, Deadpool doesn't really feel like an X-Man to me. He's his own thing. But like, what is a Storm video game? You know what I mean? Like, where you can just control the weather. It's like, again, that's why I say like the X-Men Legends and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like that to me is the most cohesive you're gonna get with like. I just feel like it would be so incongruous to be like, we're gonna make the best Wolverine game that's also the best Storm game. It's like, no, you can't do both at the same time. Like it doesn't work. Like you have to play to their strengths. And I'm trying to think of like which characters a video game works best for.
You don't have to make an X-Men video. What if you maybe just want X-Men Legends 3?
Yeah. I mean, an X-Men Legends 3 would be fun. But also like, I don't know. It's tough. I haven't played the more recent Marvel Ultimate Alliance that they did on the Switch.
Yeah.
I've heard mixed things about it. We've maybe evolved past that. What do you call that? Where it's like the top-down multiple characters thing. They did a Ratchet and Clank game like that too. All for one.
Yeah. I don't know what to call it. I called it like the Nicktoons Unite style because I played a Nicktoons Unite
it's
game
like
that.
I think we might have evolved past the Nicktoons Unite style. And it's like at this point,
the 4-player co-op action game.
Yeah. And it's like, again, very fun, of its time, but like I don't know what an X-Men game looks like.
So I would be remiss not to mention that there was a Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out in 2021.
Yeah.
I played the first level of it. I liked it. I had a good time with it.
But you only play as Peter, right?
You're only Peter, but you like
fucking
control.
What the fuck?
Yeah, you do squad commands to the other members of the Guardians.
Which is fine.
Which is like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like, I can see that was published by Square Enix. Eidos Montreal did something like that. They also, developed the Avengers game that was less well received because it was like a live service model. But from what I heard, the gameplay on that one was fine. It was just like the structure of the game itself was just fucking bullshit.
I heard it was fun when it was fun. I just
yeah. But like
bad designs.
Yeah. Don't like the designs on it. I don't love all the designs in the Guardians of the Galaxy one either, even though I think they're better.
Yeah.
But
they still feel like facsimiles of the versions we know from the MCU, which like whatever. At that point, just make a new whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like they're trying to do like the comics and they're trying to please two masters, and that's not a great design sensibility. Just like do the full like Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing my style, and But I was gonna say like that could be a way of doing it where like you have a central mutant who like gives commands, but like having Storm there and being like, why the fuck would you show it to me and I can't have it?
Yeah, exactly. That's like I said earlier, like kind of half joking. It's like, oh, like if you did like a Cable Bioshock type game, like that, like him versus Sentinels and the Phalanx and the Brood or whatever the fuck, that'd be a lot of fun. But it also wouldn't necessarily feel like worthwhile beyond like a reskinning of those games. Like Doom 2016 as a Cable game, yeah, I'd play it, but like, does it need to exist? Not really.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like
Spider-Man in 2018, that is a game that like, holy shit, like. The evolution of Spider-Man games leading up to that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like obviously the Arkham games incorporates a lot of like those like of the time mechanics and sensibilities and whatnot, and it's again it could only have come up at that point, but also it's like wow, like you took so much of what is great about Batman and incorporated it into a video game in like a meaningful way.
Yeah.
I talk about this all the time, but like the atmosphere in Arkham Asylum makes that game worth replaying to me, even though Arkham City is like the bigger map with the, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like there's so much ambiance in that first game that it's like that alone is worth revisiting.
It's so a very precise game.
Yeah,
it's doing a Metroid, style of like exploration. Like it's a Zelda. They're playing a big Zelda dungeon.
Yeah. I really want to replay the Arkham games. Spoilers for the next time that I'm on the show, we're going to be talking about an Arkham game. I was thinking about it the entire time I was playing X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, for various reasons.
Yeah. I'm just going to come on here and talk about superhero video games from now on.
Yeah.
But I don't know of a game, like off the top of my head, that it's like, besides a Wolverine game. Wolverine makes sense to me. Like, because again, it's like, I see the vision here with X-Men Origins of like the healing factor and whatnot. Like,
Vision's not in this game.
What?
Vision is not in this game.
No, there's no vision in this game.
Yeah.
No.
I know what you mean. You see that
I see the vision of what that great game would be in 15 years. Or I guess by the time that we get it, 18 years. But like, yeah.
Yeah. So, me who plays a lot of video games, I do have a couple of ideas.
Sure.
Turn-based RPG where each one has like their own like, you're doing it like it's a Japanese style RPG. And
Yeah,
everyone has,
that
like, their own
sounds
attacks.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, the
Okay,
whole
hold on, back up. If you did that, you have Peach Momoko design it, a very big artist in this moment currently. But she's also doing Ultimate X-Men, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
If that was absolutely. Speaking of, actually, an armor video game would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
She's the one that's got the big like psionic armor suit around her.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, right? Like, there's so many people that would be like so conducive to a single level
Mhm.
in a video game. Like, if rights and licenses and the expectation of something having to make like $1 billion trillion was not a factor in the video game space,
Yeah.
you could just like have like little anthology things where it's like, here's a 2-hour experience where you're doing like
We let 20 indie studios work on 20 different characters.
Yeah.
This is what they came up. The Star Wars visions of video games.
the orange box of X-Men. you know?
Yes, yeah. Orange box event. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, like if you just had like a little like anthology thing, like just like 15 little short stories, the X Mansion collection, whatever you want to call it, the X Mansion expansion,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call them. Just like a little like 2-hour thing where you can do like, oh, like here is like a, what is his name? The guy Forge. Like if you had like a little Forge thing where it's like, oh, you're just like making little rudimentary weapons, like a tactical.
A MacGyver game is what you're describing, but yes.
You could do a MacGyver game or like make it like a little tactics game
Yeah.
or something like that. I don't know, like do a Colossus.
I was
armor
thinking about
game.
it, like, I was trying to, like, Nightcrawler is, like, one of my favorites, and I was, like, trying to figure out, like, how do you make that work? And I was like, oh, like, it'd be really cool to, like, have him Metroidvania around, and it's like, well, you can only teleport once you've mapped out a room, essentially.
A rogue Metroidvania thing would be so funny where you're just like taking people's powers
Yeah.
and using them to get around.
Yeah, and, like, you're describing Kirby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirby, rogue Kirby.
Yeah. What if Kirby was with a Southern Belle with huge hair? Yeah.
I'm a suck it, sugar.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Oh man. Again, just a Gambit and rogue game in general would be like tops.
Yeah.
Just like a little 5-hour like little like romance game. A dating sim even. But my actual serious pitch would be, you've seen me play and am still playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yes.
It is an action game where
It's a lot of things.
It's everything. It is an everything game. It is, but just that is like the best team-based action gameplay I've ever seen in any video game ever. It is so fun to play. Every time I switch to Tifa and punch a monster in the face, I'm having the most amazing time of my life. And the idea that there is like 8 kits or something like that, like 8 different like battle kits in this game, shows me that like it is possible, and it's prohibitively expensive and time consuming. I'm not being dismissive, but like I would love an X-Men game in that style.
Mm-hmm.
I would love it if we had like a Storm, a Cyclops, a Colossus, a Wolverine, a Nightcrawler, because Nightcrawler has his little swords that he can actually be like viable to fight with, like just like a big guy, a little guy, a weird guy type of fighting thing that would all mesh well and do really well in a way that would be really suitable to the X-Men things. It'd just be like this big, I don't know, like what story you tell with that.
How many people are in Final Fantasy VII?
There's like 8 characters.
8. Yeah, it's
All
like you
the-
could do 8 X-Men.
Yeah.
Again, you can't really do Storm, or you'd have to be picky. You'd have to do it right. Again, like the Astonishing lineup, where it's like Colossus and Kitty and this and that.
Yeah.
Like there is a way to do it. I see the vision.
That's the closest. Yeah, Vision wouldn't be in this game either.
God damn it.
There's a way to do like an X-Men Legends style of game in like a AAA modern space and not be quite that. And I think like a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth would be like the closest thing to that. That would be like if I was like pie in the sky, $1 trillion billion budget video game, Final Fantasy VII remake, but it's the X-Men instead is what my pitch would be. Final Fantasy, the X-Cross RPG, whatever you want to call it. That would be great. That'd be my pitch.
Okay.
But that's enough talking about X-Men video games in the abstract. Let's talk about the X-Man video game that you did want to talk about today. A game with many colons and a lot of blood. It is X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition. X-Men Origins Wolverine is an action game published by Activision. It was developed by Raven Software, who also developed Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and Jedi Academy, as well as X-Men Legends 1 and 2 and Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Raven Software has been a subsidiary of Activision since 1997. The company laid off between 30 and 35 employees after their 2009 Wolfenstein game sold poorly. This reduced their staff to just 2 development teams. Their 2010 game Singularity had trouble development, resulting in delays. In October of 2010, as many as 40 employees were laid off, leaving them to just 1 development team. Since then, Raven Software has exclusively served as an assistant developer for the Call of Duty series, assisting the rotating lead developers of Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer Games.
This is the saddest thing I've ever heard.
Yes. It's sad. Like these people put out Star Wars games that ruled. They put out Quake 4.
I didn't know that they did the Star Wars games, which I played both of those.
Yeah, they're great. And they did X-Men Legends 1 and 2 and Ultimate Alliance.
I even like that Wolfenstein game.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right?
Man, I liked everything they did, and then they got reduced down to COD.
You're telling me that they did everything right and they indicted them?
But God damn it. Yeah. That's like, I'm like genuinely upset. That's so sad.
It's super tragic. One, just the fact that like people are getting laid off in the process of them actually trying to do original works, and the fact that like this company basically no longer exists except to be a COD machine for Activision. The worst fate that I can imagine. But there is good news, not in the sense of like they're going to break out and do their own thing. No, unfortunately. But basically they have been the head of like the unionization movement in the video game space. In December of 2021, Activision were trying to lay off a bunch of QA people, and they're like, no, fuck you, we're forming a union, and we are going to we're going to make sure that the people that we still have here are going to be covered. So even though we're stuck making Call of Duty games forever, at least that their staff has like job security. Yeah, no, even as they got acquired by Microsoft, those unions are still being recognized. So small victory, major defeat, but small victories. They don't get to make cool shit anymore, but at least they get to keep their jobs. A couple other interesting things about the game, because the game's like credits are just like, here it was the Raven Software development team and not like individual credits. I couldn't get like the lead directing developers and the artists and everything like I usually could, but the music for the game was composed by Paul Haslinger, who was a member of Tangerine Dream from 1986 to 1991. During his time in the group, Tangerine Dream composed the scores for films we love, like Near Dark, Miracle Mile, and 3 O'Clock High. So that's cool that like a person who was in Tangerine Dream during that time got to compose for this game. As a solo composer, this guy also worked on the Underworld movies, Crank, as well as the TV series Halt and Catch Fire. Hugh Jackman, half actor and half Australian, who portrays Logan in the X-Men films, provides the voice for the character here. Liev Schreiber voices Sabretooth like he does in X-Men Origins Wolverine, so glad he shows up too. And of course, will.i.am is also here.
He sure is.
He tries.
He's Nightcrawler's dad.
God, we'll talk about that in a second. Steve Bloom, who voices Wolverine generally, is also in this game as...
Oh, is he really?
Steve Bloom voices Deadpool and Senator Kelly in this game. Which is weird because Nolan North usually voices Deadpool.
Yeah.
But like it's just funny because like you see Ryan Reynolds' face and Steve Bloom's voice comes out of it.
Yeah. Not the vibe.
They're tin miners, boss. They bring in a lot of rock.
This rock isn't tin. Ask him where this rock came from.
He says that rock is special. He says it came from the sky.
He's telling the truth.
Shut it, Logan. You don't speak the language.
No, but I can smell a lie. It's a media fragment.
The story was written by comic book writer Mark Guggenheim, who also wrote episodes of Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow, and also co-wrote the screenplay for Green Lantern.
He was a hack.
Yes.
He's not very good.
He is a hack. He also wrote his name on the letter denouncing Jonathan Glazer's Oscar speech, where he said, please do not use the Holocaust as like a, excuse to perpetuate another genocide. He was one of the fucking losers who decided like, no, that is a bad thing to say, and I'm going to put my name on it. Mark Guggenheim, fucking Zionist loser. Speaking of this game's story, it is all over the place, and not because it is faithfully following the shit show plot of X-Men Origins Wolverine. The story is actually quite different from the movie.
No, it is a completely different story, and then in the tail end, they're like, oh, by the way, all the things in the movie happened.
Yeah, and like the last 2 levels of the game, they're like, oh, fuck, yeah, we're doing X-Men Origins Wolverine. And I think there's lots of reasons for that. They were probably using an earlier draft of the script, and they were also like, the people who made this game were clearly fans of Wolverine, and were like, I just want to make a Wolverine game, and I guess there's a movie coming out, and we can use that as an excuse. And the movie keeps getting delayed because of the strike, so we can just like do our own little twist on it. It kind of has a nonsense framing device because
it's insane.
It starts in a not so distant future. Wolverine is just fighting faceless mercenaries in a wreckage of a city. It's got that gorgeously animated, sequence that you were talking about earlier, that really good CGI. His hair is flowing in the wind as he's slicing people, and
It kind of looks like Jackman, but not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently that's like the first thing they worked on. They like developed that as a pitch for an M-rated X-Men game.
Sure.
Because
is this M-rated? I guess it has to be, right?
It's the most M-rated like superhero.
You're chopping
game.
off people's heads with helicopter blades. So
yeah, I mean, this is a game where the gameplay is like based off of God of War.
Yeah, it is very God of War.
Yeah, so like it makes sense that it's got to be bloody, but like apparently Marvel and Activision were like, no, we want to actually sell copies of this game to as many people as possible. Why would we want it to be an M-rated game? And they showed him like this opening cutscene. They're like, because this is fucking cool.
Why would
as
a
shit,
Wolverine
right?
movie be rated R? Exactly.
Yeah. So like even though the movie was rated PG-13, they got an M-rated game out of it for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC versions. Everything else is either teen rated or less.
Sure.
But yeah, it starts with a flash forward, which is again nothing from the movie, and then it flashes back to a mission where Wolverine, with his bone claws still, is part of an X-Strike. What is it? The X-Force or X-Strike team?
I don't remember.
It's Strike Force something like that, because it's with Stryker, like Strike Team X, some shit like that.
Yeah.
In allegedly Angola, but they just call it Africa in the game.
It is just so vaguely. It's so racist.
It is not vaguely anything. It is overtly racist. This is the same year where Resident Evil 5 comes out, and boy, could these two games have a contest to see about which is the most like insensitive portrayal of Africa as a continent.
Like, I want to say, this game is very fun, but I don't condone anything Wolverine was doing in this game.
This is the first thing that you do in this game, is start cutting down like people who are yelling in a different language at you, and they don't tell you why they're there.
No, that's the thing. That's what like boggled my mind about this game, is like you start the game off and you're like thrown down in the jungle, and my thought was like, oh, well, Wolverine's like an eternal soldier. It's like this could be Vietnam, this could be this could be that, and it's just like, no, oh, that's what we're doing. Oh, they've got like fucking voodoo masks and shit. What the fuck? And then like again, like talking about like no context for anything. It's like it starts out and it's just like these kind of like generalized insurgents of like the local like military, but then it becomes like a guy with machetes and magma for skin, and then there's like these weird like they look like statues, but they end up like being, I think they're called hunters in the game, but like they're these super powered, vaguely supernatural characters. And then later on in the game, there's like straight up like Black Panther motherfuckers, where like the Marvel superhero Black Panther, they're called shifters, where it's like they are like able to teleport, but when they teleport it leaves like a trail behind. It's like the Tron laser if you walk it into it, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? No explanation for any of it. And I'm not saying you have to make it all make sense, but it's like, don't be like, oh, Wolverine's cutting up the local military and then immediately jump into that. It's like, you could have just had it be something else. Like it's so strange.
No explanation for like they're allegedly mutants or whatever. I guess
they all have the same mutation, and like
it's insane, and it's like insanely insensitive. And again, the fact that they're yelling at you in a foreign language while wielding machetes at you just does not speak to like any sort of sensitivity whatsoever. I try to figure out like what the fuck is this, because it's nothing like the similar scene in the movie where they're like, the strike force trying to figure out what the fuck adamantium is.
Mm-hmm.
But like they do all of that in like various old ancient temples, killing these horrific looking mutants, and also just like people wielding machetes. And then they just go raid a village and like, what the fuck is up with this rock? What is this? What is it? That's it.
It's like they keep cutting back to the same flashback of this mission that he did. And then it's like, oh, okay, you did that. And now back to the present day where you're doing this mission and you're like hunting down Creed because he killed your girlfriend, and you're doing that. And then back they cut back to the jungle, and that happens like 3 times.
It happens between every level.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like, okay, spoilers for the rest of this episode. I did not finish this game. Mm-hmm. I got 85% of the way through. I got to the last thing, and they're like, we're going back to the jungle for one last flashback. And I was like, fuck you. I'm not doing this again. And I stopped. But I got to like the important stuff, I think.
Yeah. So the framing device is the prologue is the not so distant future. And then it's a flashback to before Wolverine gets his bone claws, and it's his last mission with this paramilitary group that he's a part of. And then it flash forwards 3 years later where...
because he still has the bone claws.
Yeah.
Creed kills his girlfriend.
Creed shows up, kills his girlfriend.
To get revenge, he allows himself to be experimented on.
Yes, his girlfriend gets killed. He snaps his bone claws, and then Stryker shows up. He's like, "That sucks that your girlfriend died, and you got your ass kicked by your brother. You want me to put some metal in you and get revenge?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yes." And then shenanigans ensue.
So there's 3 time periods.
There's 3 time periods.
Yeah.
There is Bone Claw Wolverine, which is the Africa mission.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just Africa is what is described. But like the last mission he has with this force, him getting the adamantium and trying to get revenge. And then, oh yeah, this is also bookended by like this future bullshit. The coolest part of the game that's not even playable.
Yeah.
The not so distant future stuff. Insane storytelling.
I don't want an Origins thing. I want an X-Men Future. That's what I want. X-Men Future Wolverine. Give me that game.
They've never done a future game.
Yeah.
There's a Days of Future Past themed map on Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
It's insane. They just do the the Night of the Sentinel stuff. Like,
yeah, if Wolverine can't, slice people in half, give him a lot of robots to cut.
Yeah.
Anyway, basically it's just flashing back and forth within a flashback. The storytelling is nonsense. That's not why we're here.
There is like very little glue between scenes too. Like it's just like, oh, we're here now. And I'm like, okay. Like at one point, I don't know if I skipped a cutscene or something, but I was literally just dropped back into the jungle for like the 3rd time. And I was like, son of a bitch.
You can't skip cutscenes in this game.
Okay, then yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
This is a 2009 video game. Speaking of, X-Men Origins Wolverine was released in North America on May 1st, 2009 to coincide with the release of the film. Other games released in 2009 include Batman Arkham Asylum, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Demon's Souls, Halo 3 ODST, Infamous, Left 4 Dead 2, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, Pokemon Platinum, Prototype, Street Fighter 4, and Uncharted 2 Among Thieves.
How the fuck did I end up talking about X-Men Origins Wolverine when I could have talked about basically any of those other games? I mean, Platinum, ODST. Anyway, I did play a lot of this game. My dad had a motorcycle shop at the time over in Virginia Beach, and he had a PS3. And he was like the only person I knew that had a PS3. Everyone in my age, like all my friends, we all had 360s. But he had a PS3 and he had this game, and I don't remember why he got it, but he was just like, look how cool it is that his bones grow back. And I was like, you know what? That is pretty fucking sick. And so every time I was ever at my dad's place, I would get a pizza from Sunrise Pizza, big square cheese pizza, and I would play X-Men Origins Wolverine. And then later on, it was Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I basically played this game until that game came out, and then I played that game for a while. I remember liking this game more. And it's not that I hated this game, but it is just like, it is kind of nonsense. And then like, again, like Arkham Asylum is so good and has so much care and love put into that game, like on every level. Like the sound design alone in that game is so good. And then this one feels like a early PS2 game. Like this game feels more like it has more in common with Spider-Man 2 than it does with Batman Arkham Asylum.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And this can be like chalked up to the fact that it had to come out on the same day as the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the movie got delayed, so they were probably like, because again, the strike was happening, the Writers Guild strike, which is part of the reason why the movie is like that. It having to come out the same day as the movie meant like no matter where the game went, it had to come out then. So it makes sense it's not as polished, but it also is, for not being super polished, it is like very good in a lot of like gameplay respects.
Sure,
it's just like, it's mainly like the framing of the story and like
there's my thing with it, and what I was saying is like the kernels of a good video, like a great Wolverine game, are here. But my thing is like it's like there's a lot of like good ideas that are undercooked or like half baked. It's the idea that you have the healing factor, and so you're never gonna die, but like your healing factor is, you're fucked up so bad that your vitals are exposed, and that's when you can take damage. It's like, that's great, that's so cool.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, there's the shiny metal skeleton with the muscle tissue growing back over that, with the skin growing back over that. It's kind of janky, it's not perfect, but it's cool. It's a great idea. Like,
no, it's an incredible effect,
Yeah.
Especially considering like the hardware at the time, because it wasn't quite there yet. Like,
yeah, I love that. I love that when you like level up, your t-shirt, your tank top regenerates. I think it's very funny. Like the idea that's like you start off the level with the tank top. Do you end the level with the tank top? That's up to you. Like
if you level up at the end, yes, but
yeah.
You're not going to keep that tank top all the way there. Like, it's a game where like taking damage is part of the fun because it's like a John Wick thing where like Wolverine is not strong enough to be, like he takes hits. It fucking hurts to be Wolverine. He does not have like, he can't fly.
The amount of times I got impaled on something in this game and had to rip myself off of the thing I was impaled on, fucking great. It's very funny. Like, it's a good time.
He has to be in close quarters with everybody.
Yeah.
And like everybody has a gun except him.
Yeah.
So he's going to get fucking hurt and he's going to get stabbed a bunch and he's going to get thrown in places.
But it's just a lot of like a lot of level design stuff in this. And this is stuff I wouldn't have really thought about if I hadn't been friends with you for so long, because I've absorbed so much of this like through osmosis of like you and like you watching like Game Maker's Toolkit and like stuff like that. But it's like the lunge, right? The lunge is a really good example of like, how do we get him from this place to this place? Well, in some parts we're gonna have him like, knocked down on a thing, or we'll have him zip line. But what about this one? We don't have like a thing like that here. He's just gonna jump really hard at this guy from across the map. Okay, how many times is that gonna happen in this game? It's gonna happen a lot. It's like, yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the lunging. Like
it's great. And like in terms of like, oh, like when I'm fighting in like a big like arena type thing, I'm just lunging across the map nonstop because it's funny. Like I'm doing it because it is a good time. But it's like, it just feels like one of those like, we don't have an answer for this right now here, so we're just gonna fill it in with that.
A lot of stuff is placeholder. It feels like,
yes, exactly.
Again, like this game wasn't quite done, but this was like
the collectibles and tokens and stuff in this game. They're just there. Like there's a very funny thing that I encountered like 6 times in this game. Is I would find like, like Metroidvania type things where it's like you can circle back to this room or whatever, right? And I would do that, and I would like get to the secret area, and there wouldn't be anything there, and I'm like, huh, okay. But then later on, I would find a collectible or like something, like there's the mutagens or like there's the costume stuff or whatever, and it would just be like haphazardly placed slightly out of frame, where it's like, did you pan to the right? You should have panned to the right. There's a lot of places you could have put this, but it's like whoever's job that was phoned it in real hard. Like it's like some guy painstakingly mapped out like these secret little rooms and stuff, and there's just nothing there. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like it's like it doesn't feel done.
Yeah.
And the things that are there are great. Like one of the first things you do in the game is take down a helicopter by ripping a guy out from the windshield and then putting his skull through the helicopter blades.
That's like one of the things that I did love about this is like, this game is mean.
Yeah.
This game is mean and nasty in a way that's like, again, it's like you can do Logan 2017, but I am not like opposed to the idea of an X-Men Origins Wolverine thing where it's like a slick, nasty, like 80s action movie. You know what I mean? Like where it's like just him fucking people up left and right. Because there are a lot of really great action set pieces in this, in the cutscenes. They don't look amazing, but like whatever. Yeah. The one on the boat, fucking cool. Where you're like the speeder boats, like escaping from the...
You're lunging between boats and taking people out.
Yeah, it's great. It's just like you're trying to outrun this tidal wave coming from behind you, and it's like, well, how would he do that? And it's like, oh, he would just keep jumping from boat to boat. That's cool as hell.
And then he grabs one guy and then like rams him into a machine gun that's firing at him, and then like the bullets are firing through the corpse of the guy that he impaled on the gun, and he's just like tanking every single shot by point blank.
It's great. I wish it didn't look like... I mean, but you saying that Arkham Asylum came out the same year as this, it's like, I can't even say this looks like a PS3 game. This looks like a PS2 game.
I know. Here's the thing. It does look like a PlayStation 3 game. It's just like the lower end of a PlayStation 3 game. It's just like, you're comparing it to like games like Arkham Asylum and Metal Gear Solid 4, which are like the games of like that generation. But like a lot of games, The Force Unleashed came out the year before this, and that's a game that's of comparable visual quality.
I think Force Unleashed looks a little bit better than this.
You gotta look at Force Unleashed again, buddy. That does not look like that. Like Force Unleashed 2 looks a bit better, not Force Unleashed 1.
Okay.
Force Unleashed 1 looks like, gray dog shit a lot of the time.
I just remember like this
game's better than Force Unleashed, I'll say that.
You think it's better than Force Unleashed?
Absolutely.
I don't know that it is.
Okay, just for the fact that like it looks like your shit actually hurts people, and like your
Okay, so that's another thing about this game that I love. But it's like, it's so strange. The amount of times that I felt bad for someone that I was killing this game is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen this. I cannot think of like, other than like maybe GTA with like civilians, where people are like blocking their face.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh God, like, because you're just this killing machine ramming through. But it's like, it's not even just like the low level goons. It's like the high level people are like, Jesus Christ, please have mercy. And I'm like, that's insane. Like, that, what a weird thing to do to animate.
there is an upgrade that you can unlock, which is you activate your rage mode, which is like your attacks hit harder and you're very angry and your claws turn red. There's just like one where you scare everybody who is not like a higher level enemy, and they're just like begging not to be hurt. That is a thing that you can unlock as a skill.
Speaking of like weird things about this game and feeling like half done, there's a lot of points in this game where I was like, how many people can I beat by just throwing them off the building? And if there was a fucking Xbox 360 achievement for it, I would be in like the thousands.
I threw a lot. I would say like it's hundreds of people I've thrown off of cliffs.
Like when you got to like the end of like the emitter levels where you're at the top of the towers, I threw everybody off because like it's so strange. It's like, well, there's the low level goons, but then there's like the higher level, like the hunters and the magma machete guys and this and that. And I'm like, can I grab them? And the game's like, fine, you can grab them. And I'm just chucking them off the fucking building. And I'm like, I don't like that I can do this, but I am still having fun doing it. So
so I feel like a thing that makes this the enemy variety is one of those things where it's like it's half done because there's only like maybe 5 types of enemies, and then you get to robots in one level.
Yeah,
and they never do those robots again.
They don't.
But like they reuse, like you're talking about like the hunters or whatever, which are like the statues that are actually people and they attack you.
It's like some apocalypto shit. It's crazy.
They have like 4 arms, and then they reuse that again in the Gambit level, and they're just called assassins.
Yeah, which are cool, but very strange. There's like Mortal Kombat enemies out of nowhere.
Gambit has like a harem of like superwoman soldiers with 4 arms
and like
who protect his casino in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's insane. There's
and again, you can just pick those women up and throw them off the building, and you get 5,000 experience points every single time.
Every single time I do it, like I'm racking them up. It's crazy.
Yeah, that and the fact that like you can like you can equip 3 types of mutagens by the end of the game onto your thing, which are like perks, basically perk slots for Wolverine, and like you can set it up in such a way where you're basically getting full rage every single time.
Yeah,
like
you can stack it. Yeah,
you're just stacking orbs of rage, and so I just would press RT and A, which is doing like side flips of slashing people. So
I was doing the other one. I was doing the
twirl.
The twirl. Yeah, I was doing the
twirl.
That
gets diminishing returns because like
I maxed it out like very early on.
Yeah,
and so just hitting X over and over and over again.
Yeah, that does help. But like
the drill also, I was very partial to. I like that one a lot.
The drill's great, but like that thing where you're doing like the dance of blades by flipping over and over again ultimately would like do the most damage to an arena.
Okay.
Based on like because I basically was doing math at this point because like the game, I didn't die during a combat encounter during this game. I only died during.
I died one time, and the only reason I died, it was so stupid. So the assassins in the Gambit level,
yes,
they have the things that they impale you with.
Yes.
What would happen is, I swear to God, I was like, last night you guys were out on the couch, and I was like in here playing it. I was like fuming. I was so mad because I shouldn't have died. There's no reason for this to have happened. It was just the game being stupid. It was they would impale me, and you'd have to do the BB to like pull yourself off their blade. But the minute that I'd be off of it, there would be no recovery time, and I would just be impaled another one. I was like, there was like 4 of them, and I was getting gangbanged.
I remember that exact sequence, and I immediately did the dance with swords thing, and I couldn't do
anything. It was driving me insane. Yeah, but then it's funny. So the next time that I did it, I would just parried them. Like before the first one even got a chance to do it, I just parried them, broke their thing down, did it to the next thing, broke their weapon, did it to the next thing, broke their weapon. And then I was like, okay, now you don't have the long staff to impale me on. Let's fight.
I think this game is better for being a little bit bad.
Sure.
Honestly, because like of the emergent stuff of like getting repeatedly stabbed over and over by giant women. Like it's the Simpsons rake bit. It is the Simpsons rake bit.
It is. It was that for like, I was like watching my health go down just a little bit each time, and I was like, they're gonna fucking kill me. This is gonna happen. Like I literally like I'm holding buttons down trying to get anything out before like the next one would happen. But it's like I wouldn't be all the way off of the previous one. I would be pulling myself off the spear, and before I'm even all the way off, I've impaled on another one. I'm just like, son of a bitch.
If this game were slightly more polished, it would be a bit more boring. But like if it like it could be way better, but like there's like this slight like little thing here where if this was like a cleaner experience just a little bit, it would be worse off for it because there's like that charm of the jank of being able to pick up people over and over again and throw them off a cliff and then pick up another guy and throw them off a cliff and then pick up another guy.
Just nonstop. I just did it. I did it so much. It was ridiculous.
There was no consequence to it.
Well, there was also levels where like a thing that really pissed me off in this game is like, I don't know what you call this, where there's like, oh, like very clearly defined, like if I walk through this door, I'm like, that's it for this level. You know what I mean? Like the waypoint, the whatever the fuck you would call it of it. There's a lot of moments in this game where it's like I would be walking and then it's like, oh, like I see a dog tag I can rip off a guy.
Yep.
But before I can even grab it, I'm in the next level. Like they've just shoved me through a cutscene. I'm like, son of a bitch.
So that never happened. But what happens is like I keep getting pulled out of a scene and then being thrown back to Africa.
Yeah.
And then you get thrown back in because
with no context. Like the one time you hit your head after you fall, and it's like, oh, like you're remembering this flashback. But the next time they're like, oh, you're back in Africa. I'm like, but this is before, right? This is like a flashback. They're like, yeah.
There was like a moment in like one of the Africa like sequences where like I can see on my left that there's a mutagen, and then like it cuts away, and then I'm back in like another level. The thing is, like when I went back in to Africa, like an hour later, out of randomly, like I was able to turn left and it was there. But like, why the fuck would you show it to me if I can have? Because that's all I'm thinking about for the next 45 minutes. Is that going to be like another one? It's in the robot level where you like are seeing the Sentinel factory. You get to like a stopping point and you can see like a little statue of Wolverine like by some computers, but it immediately goes to a cutscene where you're talking to Mystique. She's like,
Wraith should be up ahead, beyond that nearby door.
How do I know I can trust you, darling?
You obviously don't remember Africa too well.
And then it'll just cut back to Africa. It's like, you motherfucker.
Did you get that one?
I did get that one.
Okay, I did get that one, yeah.
Oh, we were right there, man!
You know what really pissed me off? So again, talking about like just like the haphazardly placed collectibles. The robot level, there's a point where there's the intersecting teleporters. If you maybe it's before that, but like there's a teleporter there where it's like if you go back, you can move the teleporter all the way into the secret room and teleport yourself in there.
Yes.
There is no benefit to doing that. You do that and it's just like the surprise cake. Did you get that?
Yeah, there are 2 Easter eggs I found. One is like there's a cake from Portal in it.
Is that what it is?
That's the cake from Portal, yes.
It's the cake from Portal. Like
yes.
A pink cake with candles on it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I was like, oh, maybe it's a Portal joke because like I've played the second one, but like
at the end of there's a cake at the end of the first Portal. It's like a post-credit scene. It's like the cake was not in fact a lie.
Yeah.
It was like it was an actual real thing. So there's that. And then the other one is like this is another this was even one of the well-hidden ones. There's the Lich King sword from World of Warcraft in the snow level if you just take like a slight right turn on a completely clear path in the snow level.
That's very funny.
Like it's an exclamation point.
Okay, back up. I'm less mad about it now, being that it's a Portal joke with the teleporter thing. That's cute, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's also like you could have still put something in the room, especially when you're just like kind of throwing shit all over the place.
Yeah, the
like,
Lich King sword had a mutagen next to it.
Yeah, see? Okay.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I probably grabbed the mutagen. I didn't realize it was the Lich King sword, but whatever.
It was a giant fucking sword that was bigger than Wolverine. I don't know how you'd miss it.
Yeah,
it was pretty telegraphed. But the Portal thing in general, like those puzzles, is just an example of like you had an idea and you couldn't elaborate on it very much because all of them are like super obvious like solutions. There's like one you have to think about it through, and it's like you use one exit to block another exit so it doesn't like lock back into place.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this wasn't busy work. You actually had an idea for this. But like you ran out of time, and this is like the end result.
Yeah,
it's an unfortunate thing where like you said, we can see the adamantium bones of like the better game, like basically every few minutes. But
yeah, like the gnarly kills and the healing factor. There's so much here. Like, okay, you know what? Let me say this pretty definitively. This game, it's okay. I put on the yellow costume. Great game. The minute I put on that costume, because it's so funny, it's like the yellow and brown and the tiger stripe costumes, they don't, yes, they are the costumes from the comics, but for whatever reason, they felt more akin to the new Hugh Jackman costume in the new movie because it looks so awkward.
Yeah.
And like the way that the mask fits on your face and whatnot, and like the kind of realistic textures to the costume, I was like, oh, that's so strange. But it's very funny, and like it doesn't look terrible.
Yeah.
And like, when I'm in that costume and I've got half of my face growing back, I'm like, that's cool. That's neat.
Yeah.
The tank top doesn't really do it for me.
The fact that like the bullet holes and everything stay in the costumes too is great.
Yeah.
Like it's not just a tank top that can deteriorate. Like the same thing happens. And again, the healing factor part's like the most, interesting part of the game, that they found a in-universe reason to have regenerating health in a game. And there's like a physical consequence of it. And you can see even after you heal that there's still holes and things in your garments from where like the bullets like went in and out of you. That stuff's great. The costumes look good. I wouldn't be surprised if like they use the costumes in this game as a reference, because this is a game that uses Hugh Jackman's likeness and voice in it.
Yeah.
To see like how that suit would look on him in real life when they were developing the costume in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
But this is a game that is sort of plagued by being a movie to game adaptation, and I have the sense that the developers did not really care for the game, because again, like it's really on like the Africa level and the last 2 levels of the game where they even try and do that stuff. The Gambit level is just kind of annoying, and that's based off like a 15-minute, not even a 10-minute scene of the game. And the thing is, like, Gambit isn't even in the last level of the game. You do all that shit. Gambit is a whole level, and they're saying, all right, man, I'll take you to the island now. And then you go to the island, and he's at the island at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's after the cutscene was like, I'm gonna take you to the island now. He's gone from the game.
Yeah, I mean, like, the blob, again, the blob thing and the Gambit thing just felt so tacked on.
Yeah.
And the Gambit fight pissed me off so bad, because it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
It's visually nonsense. The camera, like, kept pivoting, and it was driving me nuts. And so then I got through that, and they put me back in the jungle, which, from what you said, it's one last time before whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, listen, the whole Sentinel thing was so fun. I had so much fun with that whole thing.
That felt like the final boss.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going back to the jungle.
I have a theory that was like the actual final boss of the game they wanted to make.
And then they were like, oh shit, we have to do the movie stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it's like Blob, Gambit, the Chernobyl island.
Yeah. So strange.
Yeah.
What a weird game.
It is. It has like the most tacked on finale to, oh yeah, this is the X-Men Origins Wolverine, the video game thing ever. God, it's a lot of like, I had fun with it. I never played this game before then. I just remember you talking about it and a couple other people I mentioned on the show before. It's not a bad game. It's a good game. I had a good time with it.
Yeah, I had a good time with it. I don't think it's aged particularly well, but
talking about how like you can have to keep comparing it to Batman Arkham.
Yeah.
Is the bits where like the game will stop and like he'll put his head, like his hand to like his ear, like the way Batman will talk to Oracle or Alfred in the games, and like you can't do anything but like just walk around slowly while like they're talking on the comms.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like basically like bit for bit the animation that he does, but like the character does not walk as cleanly as Batman does, and
it also goes on too long.
That goes on too long. Yeah,
it goes on too long, and then the other thing that was like driving me nuts about, because I was thinking about Arkham Asylum. I asked you the other day if you had those games available, and you said that they're on your PS3 or
PS4. On the PS4 and the PS3. Yeah, I have both versions.
And I do want to replay those games. I keep talking about them recently with Roman. And again, spoilers, next time I'm on the show, I'm talking about Arkham Asylum if someone else doesn't beat me to it. But I just couldn't get over. It's like, man, like, again, like, there's such a clear vision in that game of like, well, what does a Batman game look like? What is the Batman Metroidvania, like, you know, this, and like, again, the ambiance of that game, like, to this day, like, hearing the Batman Arkham intercom, like, so cool, you know? It just chills down my spine. This game is like, well, we want to make a Wolverine game, and we've got a couple ideas, but we're not going to really commit to anything. Like, there's the feral scent, which feels like Detective Vision.
Exactly, that was the other thing.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, what it really means is like, do you not know where to go? We're just going to tell you where to go. Because like, things in the game will be randomly highlighted green or yellow based on like how you can interact with them. Like, can you bash someone's head into something or whatever? But it's like, it just feels so lazy and pointless. The only time that I ever really would do that kind of stuff was like if I knew that I could impale someone on something, or if I knew that I could. There's cement mixers in the
Gambit level.
The Gambit level that I was shoving people into.
A cement mixer and
It's
turn
so
them into
funny.
cement. It's good. But look, the kills are great.
Yeah, again, that's if like there's anything about this game that I love the most, it's that it's mean and nasty. Like, there are so many times where like Wolverine fucks someone up in like such a just heinous way, where it's like, I love that this is the same guy technically from Logan. I don't know if this game is considered canon or not.
I would consider it more canon than the movie, just because like,
sure, yeah. Again, Will.i.am is Nightcrawler's dad. It's just a throwaway line that he's been banging Mystique, who does show up in the game, and I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. Like, if you're gonna make an X-Men Origins Wolverine game, it's like, you should do Mystique, and you should have him like, God, like do Alpha Flight stuff. Like, that'd be cool. Like, there's a way to do that and like, you know, jump through his time periods and like have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And I like that she shows up. I have mixed feelings on Will.i.am being like, so what do you think about the name Kurt? But like,
It's just so funny because this game is so neutral about its storytelling. Like, it doesn't have any, like, all the flair is dedicated to the actual like gameplay bits and like the QTEs that you're doing in game, and the cutscenes themselves have no life to them. Everything is presented so casually and like there's no cinematic nature to any of that stuff. All of it just feels like the game talking directly to you, the player, about like, this is this part of the movie, or this is this part of the story now. There's a bit, because I've watched the X-Men Origins Wolverine movie recently, when it is adapting that stuff, like when you get to the island and you're having the fight with Sabretooth, basically like you are about to like kill Sabretooth, and then like Kitty Silverfox comes out from the corner, is like, no, Logan, don't kill him. Don't kill him. That's not a good thing to do. And then like that's basically like she says one sentence, and then he like retracts his claws, and he's like, "You're lucky she said that thing, and you're not dead now."
You know why I piss you off so much? Because at heart, I'm exactly what you are. An animal. Go ahead. Finish it.
No, Logan, you're not an animal. And I didn't trick you into loving me. Even when I wasn't near you, you loved me.
You're alive because of her.
I'm sorry. Stryker's holding my sister prisoner. He was going to kill her if I didn't do as he said.
Wait, is that you? Kayla, go save your sister. I'll take care of this.
And it's like there was no like pacing to that conversation. It was just like, all right, we're moving on to the next thing now, so you can go and fight Deadpool at the top of the reactor.
Is she alive?
Yeah. So this also happens in the movie.
Okay.
Kitty Silverfox's power, I don't know if this is true in the comics, but like her whole thing is like, she has, a form of hypnosis that she's able to put onto people.
Yeah.
What that is like she was able to like fake her death or like manipulate Logan to think that she was dead. And like she was kind of in on the.
Yeah, that's what. I remember that. Yeah.
Then she's like, I didn't mean all that to happen to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Then he's like, all right, I'm over it. And
then what a stupid fucking movie.
It is a stupid fucking movie. And then like, but there's like one cool bit at the end where like, and the game does it too. And it's like, it's not cool actually. It's stupid. It's actually fucking stupid. This whole movie's stupid because like what happens is like she grabs Stryker's leg right before he's about to put the second adamantium bullet into Wolverine. Because the first one hits his head, and that's why he can't remember is because like an adamantium bullet went through his brain.
Logan,
Hey, how about we talk about this at home?
Men like us don't get to go home.
Maybe you should turn that gun on yourself. Just leave. Head south. Walk till your feet bleed. You always wanted to forget what you did. But if you do ever remember me, remember, I always loved you.
No, that's stupid.
Yeah.
It's a fun idea that's just done so stilted both in the movie and
it's almost
in
like that movie
game.
didn't have a writer.
That's the problem. They're all on strike.
Yeah.
So it sucks. It's a good game trapped in a shitty movie. So it can't, because you were talking earlier about how like there's a unified aesthetic to Batman Arkham Asylum.
It's gorgeous.
It also has Paul Dini writing for it.
Yes.
And it has Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
It's so fascinating to me because that game feels like an extension of the animated series, and like you have Dini and the voice crew and whatnot, but it is its own thing. It's not like it's not married to that.
No,
it's
it
like,
isn't.
But it's like, well, it's like we want to have a certain level of realism injected into that.
Mm-hmm.
And, we want to go for this like more kind of grimy aesthetic, which I think they expand upon in City a lot too.
Yeah.
But it is still like so clearly its own version of Batman. It's really, really good.
They're able to have their own aesthetic that they're able to build out of the things that they're drawing from,
Yeah.
but they're not beholden to anything. It's
Yeah.
not an adaptation. They can put the game out when it's ready because it's not tying into any
It's
other
like you have the
media.
context of Conroy and Hamill,
Yeah.
but then it's like, but this is a different version of that story. Like,
This is not a DC animated universe story.
Yeah.
It's just like we're using the things because we like these performances the best, and it has a built-in dynamic that
Whereas
people
this
like.
game is
This game is trapped in its adaptation.
Yeah, this game is like, well, we're a tie-in to a bad movie, and it's like, well, what are you gonna do? It's like, I don't know.
Like Will.i.am is there because here's the thing: Liev Schreiber is an actor, Hugh Jackman is an actor. This was Will.i.am's first feature film role. I'm not trying to kick a man who wanted to be in a movie while he's down, but he picked the worst fucking movie to have a debut role in. And this game is not really interested in getting a good performance out of Will.i.am. So all of his line deliveries are like, and I am also here right now.
I've never had a problem killing the enemy, but I draw the line at murder.
There's nothing sexier than a man with a conscience.
Africa was the beginning of the end. I quit a couple months later. I couldn't take rounding up mutants.
Rounding them up? Why?
Didn't stay around long enough to find out. Creed was the only one on the team that didn't seem to mind. Hell, he enjoyed it.
That bastard.
Where were the mutants sent?
Alkali Lake, this place, and somewhere called the Island.
Except when he's canonically in this confirmed to be Nightcrawler's father.
And it's such an abrupt line because
it's
like
so strange.
It's just like, oh yeah, we're dating. Oh yeah, she's pregnant. Oh yeah, what
that's
do you think?
That's my son you've got in there.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, that's my son you're carrying. Something like that. What do you think about the name Kurt?
Teleports away.
Logan, you and Wraith can go after Creed, but you have to tell me where Alkali Lake is. I want to pay that mutant prison a visit.
Will do.
You be careful, Miss Darkholme. That's my son you're carrying in there.
See you up top.
What you think of the name Kurt?
But apparently, and I was looking this up last night because I was curious, apparently Will.i.am agreed to be in X-Men Origins Wolverine because he wanted to play a character with teleporting powers. That was his whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it reminded me of like the in-game cutscenes. What is that what you call it? Like the in-game cutscene versus like,
so like
not the beautiful stuff at the beginning.
Really quickly, there's like 4 level of cutscenes in this game. There's the beautifully done like opening and ending like animation done by Blur Studios. Then there's like the cutscenes that are happening in game where like if you're wearing a Wolverine costume, he'll still keep wearing that costume.
Yeah.
And then there's an in between those two things where it's like he's
wearing the tank top
for 3 tiers, and
but
it's like
it still looks kind of bad.
Yeah, and he's wearing a tank top, and it's like even if you're wearing a different costume, he's wearing the tank top in the cutscene. So there's like 3 tiers of cutscene.
Yeah, it's so strange, but it's like looking at it's like this reminds me so much of like if I'm being generous, Grand Theft Auto 4, but in my head it's Grand Theft Auto 3. You know, like I don't know.
No, it's definitely closer to 4. 4 doesn't look great.
Okay, all right. So maybe I'm being too harsh on this game. Then,
yeah,
but visually,
you got to go back and play a PlayStation 3 game.
I'm not going to. I'm going to go back and play Arkham Asylum and be like, yeah, that game looked like shit.
It's great. Again, this game wasn't done. To that point, there's a lot of textures that don't finish popping in.
Yeah. No, there's a very funny thing that I kept bouncing into. You know, I don't know what you call this. I'm sure there's an animation term for it, where like in like SpongeBob or Ren and Stimpy or whatever, it's like, well, your stuff that's moving is flat colors and whatever, but the backgrounds are all textured and whatever. There's a moment in this game where it's during the Sentinel level when you're like traversing through the facility. It's like every time that I would come up to a locked door that I didn't have to interact with, it would be significantly more low res than the doors that I could interact with that were like they had the green light on it as opposed to the red light. I was like, that's very funny that they're like, fuck it. Like
we're doing the static image thing, but in like a
Yeah, it's so weird. Weird. In my head, I was like, is it just because I'm at like the edge of the map? And then I was like, no, it's every red door. Not every red door, but a lot of the red doors are like this. So it's like,
yeah. A lot of repeated textures. You know what would have helped this game tremendously is like just a slightly more enemy variety. It is insane that this game does not have a jetpack variant.
Yeah. I will say I like the enemy variety in the soldiers a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, there's the weird like shotgun having ghost guys like that have
the
like
camo guys that you have to activate your feral senses to see.
Well, no, like I mean, yes, but like I was a little miffed that you have to use it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because it's an eyesore.
Yeah, it doesn't
even look like the detective vision is like this very cool blue where you can see into people's skeletons.
It's sonar. It's sonar. It has an aesthetic to it. This is just everything is bright and bloomy.
There's an artful consideration of the detective vision because it's using blues and oranges, which are color complements. This is just like a washed out drab color.
It feels like when a flashbang goes off in a movie and it's like that's...
It's like X-ray vision and a flashbang goes off.
It's terrible, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the most negative anyone's ever been about a game on your show.
Here's the thing. I'm having fun talking about this. I like that this game is kind of shitty.
Yeah, but again, it's like, do you recommend it? Yes, 5 stars. Like,
yeah, exactly. It is not done.
There's a moment in this game where like it's funny, like, like when you go down a zip line, it's very quick, but when you are going like horizontal or up like a zip line, it is the most tedious thing.
It is a painstaking shimmy. Painstaking shimmy
is a great way to put it. But the thing is, the minute I put on that yellow costume, I was like, this is awesome. This is so cool.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like Kelly's Heroes or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm doing it in like the classic Wolverine costume and I'm missing like half of my abdomen that's growing back as I'm doing it. That's cool as shit. Like it's really, really neat.
It's got style. Like it is like it's a God of War clone at the end of the day. Its ambitions aren't set to be like the prettiest looking thing. It's just again, it's trapped in like this adaptation mode, but you can tell that the people who developed this game fucking love Wolverine because they're trying to do like Wolverine type stories within that framework. For all of my bitching and
moaning, it's like there is care put into this game. It's just not Batman Arkham Asylum.
No, like,
and in the fact that they came out the same year, and like I remember, I played Arkham Asylum about a year after it came out, so I would have had this game first. Like my dad got this game new.
Mm-hmm.
We got Batman Arkham Asylum like a year after it came out for like $20. So it was, you know what I mean?
Like one of those greatest hits things.
Yeah. It might have been the greatest hits one or the Game of the Year edition. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was the Game of the Year edition. Yeah. So it's like I'm playing that one there and it is going to like immediately invite comparison. And I feel bad talking shit about this game because there is like, it is fun. And there is a reason I picked it for this podcast. It wasn't just to talk about it in relation to like Deadpool and Wolverine or whatever. It was like, no, I played this game a lot as a kid. What's weird is like, I don't remember the last level. And I'm wondering, it's like, did I do the same thing as a kid where I got to the Sentinel and I was like, fuck this. Like, I don't know.
The game is only like 9 hours long.
It's not very long. Yeah. The problem is, as a kid, I was playing it like every other weekend going to my dad's house, right? For like a couple hours at a time, like, a little bit at a time. Binging it before this podcast, kind of a nightmare because of the lack of variety. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's it made me resent things about it more, I think.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're 9 years old eating cheese pizza, this is a great game. Like
this game would have come out when you were 12, and it's a perfect 12-year-old game. It is not a 28-year-old video game. Well, I mean, it depends, but I had a good time with it.
Sure, it's what it reminds me the most of, and I wouldn't say it's even as good as this game is. Did you play the Hulk Ultimate Destruction / the Incredible Hulk 2008 games?
No, but like we've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, Ultimate Destruction, if I remember right, is like the template, like that's the really good one, and then they were like, oh, let's just reskin. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
For the 2008 game. I played the fuck out of that 2008 game. I love that 2008 game because I had that on the 360 at my house as a kid, and like if I wasn't playing Halo 3 with my friends, I was playing Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Just talking about weird video game tie-in things. It's like if you had a save file from the Iron Man game, you could get the Hulkbuster armor as a skin in the Hulk game.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Hollywood Video, rented the Iron Man game just to save the file on the thing so I could get the Hulkbuster armor.
Yeah.
I'm not a gamer. I just love superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, like Hulk Ultimate Destruction does have like a lot of like love behind it. We talked about it a little bit in the Tony Hawk's Underground episode because do you know who developed the Hulk Ultimate Destruction game?
I have no idea.
It was Radical Entertainment, who also developed Simpsons Hit and Run.
Great game.
Scarface: The World Is Yours, and then the Prototype games.
Mm-hmm.
And Prototype also came out the same year, 2009. Also a subsidiary of Activision because, again, Marvel and Activision had that licensing agreement. Now, like, also just no longer a company.
Can you check who did the 2008 licensed game?
Edge of Reality.
So it's not the same company.
It is not. It is a company that has only made, it's made the Shark Tale video game from 2004, the Over the Hedge video game from 2006. It makes the Incredible Hulk for Sega. 2014, it makes Transformers: Rise of the Dark Spark.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but the Hulk game and the Transformers: Rise of the Dark Spark game do not have even remotely okay reviews.
That's so strange. I played that Hulk game so much.
Yeah.
I think it's because you can you're on the island of Manhattan and you can destroy it.
Yeah.
So I would essentially be a little kaiju for hours.
I'm not shitting on you.
Yeah.
I think but again, if it's just more Hulk Ultimate Destruction, why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to download Hulk Ultimate Destruction so you can play that.
Cool.
Yeah. What if I brought you on again to do the Incredible Hulk 2008 game and you just complained again for 2 hours?
No. Listen. Have you played the Hulk 2003 game?
The Hulk based off the movie Hulk. Game.
Yes.
The one that's half stealth and half
yes.
actual Hulk game.
Yes.
I know of it.
It's fascinating. It feels weird in a way that's appropriate for an adaptation of Ang Lee's Hulk, if that makes sense.
Totally.
You play the stealth stuff for Banner, and there's so much of it, and it's as a little kid, you're I just want to smash something for the love of God. But the whole game is him being I don't want to fucking Hulk out. But they do a bunch of cool Hulk villains in it. They do Madman, and they do Beast, I think, is in it, and yeah, I was as a kid, I was tickled because I was oh, I know who these characters are from my encyclopedias.
I'm seeing characters Hulk is ambushed by the energy vampire Half-Life.
Oh, Half-Life's so cool.
Yeah, Leader's in it, Madman's in it.
Yeah, Half-Life's thing is he's an energy vampire, and because you're a fucking walking gamma radiator, he's oh God, what a great I don't know that this game's good, but I played a lot of this as a kid too.
It has better reviews than the 2008 game does.
Interesting.
How about I just download all 3 Hulk games for you? You can tell me which one's the best.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. We'll just do an episode just called Hulk.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll actually get you back to do Arkham Asylum so you can be a bit more gushing about a thing. We'll do a Patreon bonus just called Hulk.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I want to do. I think I want to do Asylum over City.
I think there's more. I don't know actually because I love both games, but I know that Asylum is the more clean experience. But
it's to me that one is the more cultivated of the two. If that makes sense. It's curated in a way. It's that one feels maybe this will make sense. That one feels like a Shake Shack, right? You go to Shake Shack and it's okay, you're getting one thing, but it's really good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
City is Cookout. City's we got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But it ain't as good.
Asylum, the thing with good comparison there, but Asylum is again a very direct experience, specifically trying to do one thing, and then a City is the sequeliest sequel that has ever existed.
Everything's bigger. The map is bigger. The more gadgets,
bigger,
more villains.
There's more of an identity to Asylum because it's this highly specialized experience, and then City loses that identity, but it is also just a really fucking fun.
It's a great game. I would say Batman Arkham City is probably the game I've played the most out of any game ever.
Yeah, the thing
it's the last game I bought at a midnight release.
Yeah, there's a very tone and everything going on with Asylum, but in City you can do an 80 combo on a single goon.
Yep.
So why not?
I'll never walk again.
Yeah, you'll never walk again, but you didn't kill him. But the other thing is, I love every second of Asylum until Mutant Joker.
Yeah, but that's the last thing.
But it's the last thing.
It's the last thing, and the game is so good that it doesn't even put a bad taste in my mouth.
But the final boss of City is just so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's what a good twist.
It is. God. It is so funny that the sequel, the inciting incident of City is oh, I shouldn't have turned myself.
I don't feel so good, Batman.
I should have turned myself into a giant monster so I could try and beat Batman.
Why did you let me do that?
It's so funny.
But I do love Dying Joker. What a cool...
Yeah.
It's so funny because it's I hate Titan Joker at the end of that game, but then playing City, it's man, you mine that stupid thing for so much pathos.
Yeah.
It's... God, Batman. Let me save it for the episode. I'll save it for the episode. See you in a year and a half when I talk about Batman Arkham Asylum.
We were dangerously close to talking about Asylum more than we did. I haven't even gotten to the No Country for Old Games. I usually do it in the middle, but we're just you immediately jump. Just I gotta complain about it. And that's the thing, right? I'm gonna do the No Country for Old Games thing.
I have a thing for that too. So go on. You do.
Yeah, let's do No Country for Old Games, and we'll figure out more things to say about this game if there's anything left. The subject of video game preservation means the world to me. I want people to be able to play games from their childhood, and I want them to remain readily available. This is a game that you played when you were 12 years old. This wasn't a game that you were able to play again until today because it's so fucking expensive in the aftermarket. Because publishers don't care, and that's usually the reason why, or they're not financially motivated to. But in this case, it just really feels like spite. Spite is a big driver of this. Disney is a company of billions instead of, worrying about millions like most, companies do. So it's like, why the fuck would we just go through the effort of having to re-release a video game when it wouldn't even make us that much money in the bottom line? And then also like they're trying to tank the X-Men as like as a IP for a while intentionally. Not the point, but the point is normally it's because of like, a lack of motivation. But in this case where like so many different companies have become consolidated to the point where Activision is Activision Blizzard now. I think they're Activision Blizzard like the year before this game came out, actually. That's why the Lich King sword is in the game. But they've only acquired more and more companies since then. And then Disney's now like this huge media property. It makes sense that this game is just like not on their radar anymore. But let's normally be like, all right, we're going to rate this game on a scale of A to ARG, and A means it's available. ARG means like, ARG, it's so frustrating it's not in this game. This game has just broken me in terms of like talking about like video game availability. I don't even feel like being cutesy with it. This game's an ARG. It's an ARG. Raven Software no longer makes video games. Activision no longer has the Marvel license. Nobody cares about making this game readily available, even though it is cool as shit despite the racism and the jank to it. This game was released in 2009. There are other versions developed by a different company that made the PS2 and Wii versions of the game. There's also a Nintendo DS version of the game. And there's also a Wii version of the game. Something that the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 games don't have are additional modes. So they weren't available on our version, but there's actually other things to do in the game besides.
Okay, but the
game.
other versions are bad.
No, the PlayStation 3 and 360 versions are the same as the Windows version that we just played now.
Oh, the Windows version. Okay.
Yeah, the Windows version has slightly less content than the PS3 and Xbox 360
Strange,
version.
Okay.
So, like, there's custom combat arena.
Okay, stop real quick. I totally forgot. In this game, to unlock a costume,
yes,
you have to beat up yourself in that costume.
Yes.
It's extremely funny.
You have to kill Wolverine to get his costume.
It's awesome.
It's like Terminator 2 when he like rips
yeah. I forgot to say that. That is another thing that I really enjoyed. It's just like, what's the challenge? Oh, it's just beating the shit out of myself in that suit. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're transported into the danger room.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you gotta beat yourself up to get his costume. And then it's just like, it's Wolverine with the same moveset as you, but he doesn't have the regenerating health that you. That would have been an interesting challenge if you had to fight like another regenerating health version yourself, and it was an endurance challenge. But again, this game wasn't ready. It's half done. So instead it's just like, yeah, here's another Wolverine. Just kill this Wolverine. And it's pretty easy, especially as you get further into the game. Yeah. It, like by the time like it's the X-Force? What is the black one called?
Yeah, the X-Force one.
The X-Force costume. By that point, I could literally just do like all right, flip, you're dead. It didn't matter. But yeah. The PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions had downloadable content released a month after the game's released in June of 2009, and that had custom combat arena, ladder challenge, and environmental simulator. So there was a little extra, like they added some extras for people. It's not on the Windows version that we played, but yes, like you said, like to get unlock costumes, you had to quit into the main menu, click on bonuses, and then would you like to fight Wolverine to wear his clothes? Yes, and then when you go back to the main game, you can wear his clothes. Yeah. Normally, when I talk about games that were released on the Xbox 360, I get to be like, yeah, and it was backwards compatible on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X and S. So even though the game's delisted, you could at least put the disc in. Nope, because they didn't make the game backwards compatible. It's not one of the.
It's not.
It's not. Yeah, if you have an Xbox One or Xbox Series X and S and you have the disc, you can't put it in those things because of the licensing thing. Activision didn't care to like put in the effort to make it backwards compatible.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard, there are rumors going around in like some deep parts of like forums that are like, yeah, I hear that they're trying to like make a lot of the games that Activision made back in like the 2000s and early 2010s more readily available. But I will believe it when I see it, especially when it comes to becomes with the Marvel stuff. Like, I think the fact that we're getting a Marvel vs. Capcom collection is promising. I wouldn't hold my breath, especially with like the Disney stuff, and especially with like likenesses. I wonder if there's like a thing where like they would have to pay Hugh Jackman for likeness things. If they have to pay a third party, I doubt Disney would go for it.
Sure, yeah.
But I do wish that more people were able to play this game like
in terms of, do you want to play an X-Men game that isn't a fighting game? This is the best one.
Yeah.
Like, well, you know, like a single player experience, you know? I like the Legends games, but like they're more fun with a friend. You know? And it's frustrating because it's like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine has generated billions of dollars, you know,
Mhm.
in terms of like revenue.
Yeah.
You'd think that, oh, why don't we capitalize on that by releasing that one thing that people liked about X-Men Origins, you know? But
Yeah,
no.
why not make it so that you can buy the Deadpool video game after his movie made $1 billion goddamn dollars?
Yeah, it's fucking insane.
Why can't we play X-Men Origins Wolverine the video game on Caged Edition?
So that's what I was gonna say is like really funny is like the Deadpool game is expensive when it comes to the shop, but we put like $60 on it. I think it's not cheap. And then X-Men Origins Wolverine, I got excited because I picked up the PS2 version for you, thinking we could play it for the podcast. And then I found out that it's a shittier version made by a different studio.
Yeah, no blood and gore in that one.
Yeah, no blood and gore. And so I was like, oh, so the one I played as a kid, the PS3 version, it's like I have to track down that version. The PS3 and the 360 version, prohibitively expensive. They're both like $60 still.
Sometimes more.
Yeah, sometimes more. And it's like, and I feel like they've gone up since the new movie came out.
Yeah, I've been seeing them in like, I think the cheapest I've seen is 80. They're like in the hundreds now.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's oh man.
Like,
and it's a good game. It's not that goddamn good. Like,
but like, where else can you play an X-Men game right now? You can't. You literally cannot buy an X-Men game right now. There are no. If you go on Steam right now and type in X-Men, you're not going to get shit. You're not going to get anything on the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store. It just doesn't exist. You can play Marvel Snap on your phone, and you can play like,
which is great game.
I'm sorry you're back on the. I'm sorry you're back.
I haven't played enough a few weeks now. Actually, it's been a bit.
All right. Well, you're scratching your neck while you say that. Yeah. Look, and you know, you can play Midnight Suns and pretend that it's an X-Men game almost, but
it's based around magic, right?
It's magic, yeah, and Storm and Wolverine and Deadpool are in it. I think you can make a team of just X-Men characters if you try.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, this is an arc. This is one of the biggest arcs I'd ever say because I've ever done on a show, because it just seems like
you said, it's spiteful.
It almost feels spiteful, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to give Disney the benefit of the doubt that they are people who are like, I don't know. It's just whatever. It just seems like the way that they are so resentful of the Fox stuff and like how that got in the way of like their money for years.
I think that what makes this the biggest R is like not just that it hasn't been re-released, it's the fact that it never will be.
Yeah. The fact that it was
like
delisted.
There's no chance of it. Yeah. It's like
I'm not saying there's zero chance, I'm just saying there's very little. Like there would have to be somebody
my thing is I do think there's like no chance because it's a brand thing. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, well, that doesn't vibe with our Wolverine.
Yeah.
You know, the new Wolverine, be it Daniel Radcliffe or whatever the fuck it ends up being.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I just don't see a reason for them to do it because it's not going to mesh with their brand synergy.
I'm not hopeful that they will do it voluntarily, but I am hopeful in just a general sense that I am hopeful for the future, because if you're not hopeful about the future, what is the reason of living? You're already dead. Fight for it. If you want to play this game, I got it on myabandonware.com. This is the third time I've talked about this website in this year alone. But if you go on My Abandonware, you can get a PC version of the game. It does not take up a lot of space. And trust me, it is not graphically demanding. If you like Wolverine and you just want to play an X-Men video game, check it out. But yeah, this game is a huge fucking ARG. Just know that. You played the original on PlayStation 3, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my first time playing the game. And like I said, even though it is the most 2009 ass video game in terms of tone and presentation I've ever seen, had a great time with it. The platforming, by the way, sucks. Anytime you have to like do jumping to get around.
Again, the camera's kind of wonky.
The camera's kind of, we did not, like, we figured out a lot about 3D action at this point in time, like how we handle third person stuff. We didn't perfect it. Like, it's just funny because this game has no subtitles. There's no option to turn on subtitles for the game. Not that I cared about the plot that much, but just the fact that I could not turn that on is the most like 2009 thing ever. You can't skip cutscenes. Like, you just cannot skip cutscenes. That fucking sucked. Yeah, and the camera still just like not working, especially in indoor spaces.
Man, that Gambit fight, what a fucking nightmare.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There was like I said, there's no cinematic quality to any of this, but it's trying to be a movie game. So there's just like nothing behind that. These are talented developers who've made wonderful games before, but this was just like not in that just the fact that it was a, movie game was not their best use of their talents. There is an upcoming Wolverine game. What would you want out of Insomniac's Marvel's Wolverine?
1,000 costumes.
Yeah?
Yeah, another $1 trillion to the costume department. love that aspect of the Spider-Man games. I know it's silly. I know it doesn't really make a difference. It's just aesthetic bullshit. But it's fun, and Wolverine and Spider-Man, like in terms of like having multiple costumes that are super iconic. Wolverine, Spider-Man, and Batman, I guess. It's like, that's it. Like, if I can't run around the Insomniac Wolverine game in like the fucking Age of Apocalypse getup or as Patch or whatever, there's no point in me playing that game. But no, I would like to see them incorporate the healing factor thing. I think it's really cool.
I hope it's M-rated.
Yeah, it has to be M-rated. I think they said it's going to be. I mean,
they've made M-rated games before.
Yeah,
it's just like, I don't know if they're trying to how synergistic they're going to try and be with that. But I mean, God of War is huge still.
Yeah.
So I don't think people are that precious about the M anymore.
Yeah. I mean, God, the little kids don't play video games. Like, what little kid's buying a fucking PS5?
Fortnite.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, the Wolverine's in Fortnite. That counts.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, like the things here that work, I want to see them expanded upon. I want to see a good story. I've been really impressed with the storytelling in those Insomniac Spider-Man games. I think a good Wolverine story would do him a lot of good, because I feel like for as many times as we've seen Wolverine on the big screen or the small screen in the past 30 years, Logan is the only time where I've been like, oh, you actually made the most of this character. Like,
yeah.
You really actually went for it with this guy. Oh, actually, Alpha Flight. I want to see Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
I'm being dead serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just me, but like I'm hoping that they're not just going to do like, here's Weapon X again stuff, because we all know the Wolverine origin at this point. We all know him.
I'm not opposed to like Weapon X stuff in it, but I agree. It's like, you don't need to do the origin.
Yeah.
They don't do Uncle Ben in the Insomniac Spider games.
Yeah.
There's like a passing reference to him, I think, in the apartment.
You can go to his gravestone in the first
That's what
game.
it is. Yep, his gravestone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Weapon X stuff, again, like the more they stray away from anything origin wise, the better.
Yeah.
I guess Romulus and all that's like a very video game concept, but I'm not very interested in it. Ooh, an Easter egg to his kid would be cool. I like Doc a lot.
As long as they're not trying to be like too divorced from X-Men stuff.
No.
Like, I know like Jean's going to be in the game in some capacity.
Oh, is she?
Like, I saw in the leaks that like there is a Jean Grey model.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, what is Wolverine without Jean Angst?
Yeah.
Actually, there is no Jean Angst in this game because he hasn't met her yet.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I would love a game with another million costumes. One of my favorite parts about the Insomniac games, whether they're Ratchet and Clank or the Spider-Man games. I love the Wolverine costume in Spider-Man 2 that Miles can wear. It's a great costume.
Yeah. It's great looking.
It's got me excited for the game.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what they do. I hope I want the orange and black. I want the X-Men Evolution suit.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Like, do whatever you want. Give me a million dog shit costumes. There's lots of
They didn't do Spider-Man Unlimited yet, right?
I don't think they have.
I don't think they have, yeah. We're getting a toy of it, apparently.
I like Marvel's Insomniac Spider-Man 2, but the costume ratio of good to bad is worse than in the first game.
Sure, yeah. It felt more curated than the first. It felt more intentional.
It felt more historical. Like, it was like,
but actually, also, like, I like the new suits in that game. Like the weird, like, the weird Kamen Rider suit and the ones that they designed for the game. I like those a lot.
Yeah.
In the first one.
I like Rina Sawayama. I don't care that she designed a costume.
Did she?
Yeah, she designed one of the DLC costumes
for the new game.
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah, I love her, but it's not. I don't care.
Remember when she climbed up the guy with knives?
Yeah, John Wick 4.
Yeah, it's great.
That's what a Wolverine game should be, and that's what this game felt like playing. It's like it's a John Wick experience. Wick 4. Getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, I just want to play John Wick 4 now.
Yeah, I mean Hotline Miami.
Yeah. But also climbing up a guy with knives.
Yeah.
Speaking of things I want to see in a Wolverine game, genuinely, Omega Red.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need Sabretooth. But Omega Red, I think, would be a really fun video game villain.
Mm-hmm. Silver Samurai?
Yeah. I don't need him, but yeah.
I know, I'm just trying to think, like, what are, like, the Logan-specific guys?
Yeah. There's a guy named Cyber that you haven't encountered yet, I don't think, but he's just got, like, essentially metal arms. Mm-hmm. That's, like, his whole thing.
Oh, man, are they going to do, like, Mojo challenges like they did with, like, Homegrown
I don't
challenges?
think they'll do Mojo. I think to me, Mojo is an X-Men thing. Not a Wolverine thing.
Sure.
Yeah. God, what is there's time traveling multiversal like law firm. God, what are their names? It's like Landau, Lucky, and Lake or something like that.
Okay.
That show up in some of the early 2000s, late 90s Wolverine comics I was reading. And it was just this weird thing where they would show up, and it reminded me of the twins in BioShock Infinite.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where it's just like weird encounters.
Yeah, don't like that game like the twins. Twins are cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like I would love like that kind of thing where it's like weird things, like weird passing references to Wolverine lore. I think would be fun.
Because like here's the thing with like Wolverine is like those, you can make those stories anything. If there's like a little bit of sci-fi, if there's a little bit of supernatural, if there's a little bit of like Western, and they're able to do all that, that's great. I'm not saying we need a level-based Wolverine game where every level is a different tone. Although now that I'm saying it, I kind of want that.
Yeah,
give me Kingdom Hearts Wolverine. Put Wolverine in Kingdom Hearts. It's actually possible now. Put X-Men Origins Wolverine specifically in Kingdom Hearts and let them make sense of all that plotline stuff. Oh god, an adamantium keyblade. I'm spiraling right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, this is a loosey-goosey episode, but I had a lot of fun, and thank you for giving me so much of your day, Avry. Love you very much. Thank you for doing this. Happy birthday. If you have nothing else to say about Wolverine, let's talk about recommendations. What would you recommend to people in any form of media, book, comic, radio?
Like just in general?
Just like in general.
Okay, so Hickman, Jonathan Hickman and Greg Capullo, famous for illustrating the Batman Court of Owls story, just started a new Wolverine one called Wolverine Revenge. Wolverine Revenge. It's great. It's gorgeous. It's a lot of fun. Big bombastic action. He's slicing up dinosaurs. Great time. I really enjoyed that.
I do love slicing up dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
He like lets himself get bit at one point, and you see him inside the dinosaur's mouth just hacking and slashing inside. It's very funny. Trying to think, what else am I reading, watching right now? There's My Adventures with Superman just wrapped up its second season. I've been watching Craig of the Creek for the first time, which has been very good. Yeah, the Skybound Transformers books, I'm sure I talked about last year some, but that's been fantastic. Really, really good comic books if you like Transformers or if you just like good art. It's Daniel Warren Johnson doing those, and then I think Jorge Corona takes over with issue 7. That's been really enjoyable. I feel like it's been a pretty good year for movies. Seen a lot of good movies recently.
Mm-hmm.
A Trap is probably still in theaters.
Yeah.
Maybe not by the time this episode comes out, but yeah, check out Trap.
Trap's good.
Long Legs is on streaming today. Long Legs is really good. Check that out. And then yeah, just check me out online on Twitter and Instagram at Avry with no E, Avry Robin Ott, ROBINOTT. I've been running a convention here in Savannah, Georgia called the Savannah Polar Indie Comics Expo. You can check us out at Sav Spice on Instagram. I run that with my buddy Roman, who did the Warriors episode here on Select and Start. And other than that, I'm just being a cat dad with Keifer.
Oh, yeah. All great recommendations. Since we're just recommending things that we watched lately, throwing out there Furiosa.
Furiosa, very good. Best movie of the year, honestly.
Yeah. You haven't seen it yet, but I saw the TV Glows also like really high up there.
I've already bought the 4K or the Blu-ray. I just gotta wait for it to get here.
Yeah, my top 4 in no particular order is like I saw the TV Glow, Dune 2, Furiosa, Challengers.
Challengers is really good.
Challengers
is my favorite movie of the year.
No, if we're recommending a movie from 2024 that we can relate to Wolverine,
it's Challengers.
Challengers.
Yeah.
Because it's about a love triangle and one of them's very hairy.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. Patrick is definitely Logan.
Mm-hmm.
And Art is definitely Cyclops.
Yeah.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with ending the show on that note.
Okay, well, I want to make my other couple recommendations. X-Men 97. If you want a cartoon that is, violent like this game, Invincible, season 2 wrapped up this year. Love Invincible. Check that out. And then for video games that were also out in 2009 and are good, I like Infamous. Check out Infamous.
Infamous is very good. Yeah.
Infamous is very good. I have both games on the PlayStation 3 still. I can't wait to replay them soon. Those first 2 games are really good. The third one's fine. Second Son's fine. But
the Second Son, the third one?
There's a third one. It's Infamous Second Son is the third game.
So it's just Infamous 2 is the second one.
Infamous 2 is the second, because like Second Son is because it's a new guy. It's a new protagonist.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It's still a dumb name.
yeah. It's confusing. But yeah. That is going to do it today on the Select and Start. Avry already promoted himself, so that saves us here to the end. Thank you again for being on the show, Avry, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Select and Start. Once again, I am your host, editor, and promoter, Keifer. If you enjoyed this episode, please give the show a positive review wherever you're listening to this. Engagement helps the show, and your feedback will improve it. If you want to get more engaged, give the show a follow on Twitter at SelectPodStart. If you have thoughts about X-Men Origins, Wolverine, Uncaged Edition, or any other games we've discussed, send a DM or leave a comment, and I will gladly read it on the show. You can also support me on Patreon. If you pledge at least $1 a month, you'll get early access to new episodes as well as extended episodes with exclusive content, including the hour that Avry and I just spent talking about other X-Men video games that came out that are no longer available, but mean a lot to a lot of people. That's on patreon.com/Keifer's Corner. You can find a link to that and the rest of my projects in the description of this episode. Select and Start is on the Moonshot Network, which is supported by its own Patreon. Find out more on moonshotpods.com. The art for this show is made by my best friend, today's guest, Avry Ott. You can follow him on social media with the handle @Avry Robin Ott. That's AVRY Robin OTT. The show's theme song was composed by Mike Petrie. You can find the links to their work in the description of this episode. All right, I think that's it. To me, my X-Men. Oh, I shouldn't have turned myself.
I don't feel so good, Batman.
I should have turned myself into a giant monster so I could try and beat Batman.
Why did you let me do that?
It's so fucking funny.